Hello everyone, this is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Orochimaru experimented on Naruto and created a Mokuton monster, Naruto times Ino Yamanaka times Hinata Hyuga times Temari times Anko Midarashi times Kurenai Yuhi Part 2. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. Treacherously so. Naruto had never felt such a cold dance through his bones, causing his organs to tremble, his body to shiver in a defensive mechanism to create warmth. The question of whether they'd reached the snow was a stupidly infuriating one at this point. If the sea had been frozen, Naruto wouldn't have found it out of place. The mountains looked like solid ice, but they were just covered by blankets of snow. Dark clouds gathered above, shutting any hope of the sun. Each landscape had its own atmosphere. If it wasn't deathly cold, it was deathly hot. Yet to the citizens, it was the normal. For the next couple of weeks, for them, this was the new normal. But this was damn cold. The only person who'd shown excitement was the film director. He'd shouted for the ship to halt. The large ice stranded within the sea would do just fine for filming. Of course, everyone would be out, getting battered by the cold while he sat next to heater, blankets covering for measure. Some mission this was turning out to be. You'd think the fire would be full of fires after seeing the snow. Naruto said in a mild tone, daring not to venture out into the snow. There are other nations like this. The samurai nation is like this, replied Kakashi calmly. At least we have reached the snow. We can now eat something different and get some space. Felt like I was locked up in jail. Is the village far from here? Not far, but we are there. Does the snow have a shinobi village? Kakashi glanced at Sakura for a second before looking into the opening. He was getting a little worried. Sandayu wasn't completely honest with them and he worried that things could boil all over. There would be no reinforcements from this place. But he trusted that Naruto and Sasuke could get the job done. The problem was protecting the civilians. While their duty was to protect the princess, they couldn't just watch the others get in trouble. Many people required numbers, regardless of the strength of the enemy. Well, at least creating thousands of clones for Naruto was nothing. It could always be a fallback plan just in case. As far as I know, yes, the Jonin replied. They are different from us. They use some armor called chakra armors. I hope we don't come across anything like that. A problem? Sasuke asked with an expressionless look. But inwardly, he was dancing in joy. He needed something troublesome to alleviate the boredom and a bag to pound to remove the frustrations he felt with being stuck in this ship with no other way of escaping. Naruto had been right. The little space to move had started to feel like they were in jail. It was doing the same thing over and over again with each day. Yes, I haven't come across a shinobi wearing one in a long time. I'm sure they have evolved them. Kakashi replied in a thoughtful tone. You need to be on the lookout the moment we arrive. Things can escalate at any moment. Of course. For now, let us check this place before they set up their equipment, ordered Kakashi. They all jumped out of the ship. The second Naruto touched the snow, he felt a cold chill down his spine. He needed something over him or he was going to end up freezing. Those heaters were needed while they stand guard. This was like he was standing inside a freezer while he surveyed the area with a keen eye. This snow reminded of Haku, the kind-hearted shinobi who died to save his master. A sad reality. But that was the shinobi world. That first mission had taught him the brutality of this journey he'd started. There were no merry songs while out on missions. Death was a working hazard. You went, but there was no guarantee of ever returning. In his case, the villagers would rejoice. Few would mourn his death. A sad reality for him that made him slightly miserable. He hoped that things could change. For the better, in the near future. Looks okay, Sasuke said after he was done with his round. Yeah, Naruto replied in thought, his mind absorbed by his life-sucking thoughts. Sasuke stared, curious about the sudden loss of attention in Naruto. It wasn't the first time he saw Naruto with that kind of look. It always seemed to resurface whenever he was alone. Yet, Sasuke wouldn't ask. What? Sasuke shrugged. Naruto put his hands inside his pockets and then walked away from Sasuke, heading back to the ship. The crew would be busy setting up the scene and their equipment. Nothing really seemed to be fixed in some cases. The director was a whimsical junkie who went with whatever he saw fit. It took about an hour for everything to be set up, and like usual, the princess had to be dragged in front of the camera but became majestic when the lights flashed and the director yelled march. The many extras were standing within the snow, the princess doing her part with her guards. The antagonist in the movie was standing some distance away, reciting his lines perfectly as if he was a true villain. They should have gotten a real one. Then again, such a person wouldn't think about killing people on the film set. It would no longer be a film but a reality show. Ah, how Naruto wished he could be part of the show. You look disappointed, Kakashi asked him. Naruto glanced at the Jonin. He didn't have his usual book at hand. In the past days, he had his book while they were filming. Then again, there was no threat in the ship. There was nothing even here, but you could never be sure about anything. The world was full of surprises. I'm not getting part in the film. My chance of fame is slipping away. Naruto replied with a pout. You can't do your job while going after the camera. It is possible. I'll be a little closer to the princess. I think my acting skills can even rival that of the princess. Kakashi smiled genuinely. That may be true. At least some of us are getting a kick out of this. Naruto was staring at Sakura, who had her eyes on the males she liked. A truly bad taste in men, he shook his head. And then his eyes snapped toward the huge boulders on the sides. Company, Kakashi announced in a serious tone. Take formation. He ordered and then jumped in front of Koyuki and her men. Come out. The Jonin shouted. There was no response. The antagonist stared at the Jonin. What are you talking about? There was no response from anyone behind Kakashi. The man in robes and a stuff looked confused for a moment. This wasn't according to the script. And yet, the cameras were rolling. Oh, I see, are you friends of the princess? Welcome to the snow country. Nader stepped out of the snow, hands folded across his chest, smirk on his lips. His eyes stared directly at the Koyuki. Princess. Welcome home. Kakashi turned to Koyuki for a moment, seeing her shocked look. This was not part of the script. This was real danger. He'd known something was up when he saw that crystal and how Sandae was pushing for her to return to this country. Did the Sandaime know? Either way, this was not what he expected. You, the Jonin took a stance. A pleasure to meet you again, Hitaki Kakashi. I hope this time around, you won't run away from me. This was not the ideal place to fight. There were too many people and anything could happen. An attempt to remove the threat in this location would be like playing the lottery. They just needed to repel and get everyone else into the ship before moving away. Everyone, get back into the ship. The moment he yelled those words, Kakashi's eyes flashed behind, sensing some movements. Sensing movement, Naruto's eyes flashed on both sides. There were two enemies coming directly toward them. They were moving fast along the snow. Yet, his eyes could clearly match their speed. Years of training help. The target was the princess. He only shot Sasuke a look and focused on his opponent. Sakura would act as the last guard to Yukie. Mizore was sliding along the snow in speed, having burst out from below. He was staring directly at the princess. The brats couldn't do anything to him, not when he had his chakra armor. He stretched out his left arm when the blonde brat moved to intercept him. Get out of my way. He charged before releasing his retractable arm. The arm shot out like a bullet and hit the blonde on his throat. But the moment he did so, the blonde disappeared in a puff of smoke. Another Naruto burst from the ground while Mizore was speeding, just in front of the man. Naruto braced himself for impact. The rest of his body was buried in snow. He strengthened his hands with chakra as the hovering board neared him. He flashed out his hands, grabbing the board with all his strength. It came to a halt. But the speed pulled him slightly from the ground. Had it been a clone, it probably wouldn't have been to withstand the impact. Mizore cursed while falling over. He couldn't control his body. At this rate, he was going to hit the snow in a heap. But at least, he should be getting close to the princess. Why hadn't he even attached the snowboard to himself? Such nuisances wouldn't be happening. Hello. Mizore's eyes snapped below while he was falling. Another Naruto. Right below him. He was going to fall on the brat. What trick was he using? Shadow clones. Solid ones at that. He couldn't be that fast to have moved that fast. 4 roots burst from the snow below him, spreading toward his body. In his position, he couldn't do anything. But he still believed in his armor. He grinned, taking his focus away from the princess and to the blonde below him. His armor could withstand the attack. He stretched out his right hand, in attempt to grab the blonde by his face. The roots slammed into his armor but started to disintegrate the moment they hit him. However, there was still enough force behind the jutsu to send him upwards, unharmed as he was. Naruto was surprised that his jutsu didn't work. The armor was protecting the man. But he still had another plan. While airborne, Mizore flipped to the side. The princess was just below him, guarded by the little girl. The problem for him was the blonde. He held out his left hand, seeing that the blonde was still lying on the ground. His retractable arm stretched out, flashing toward the blonde. He didn't move as the armored arm slammed into his chest, but once more the blonde disappeared in a puff of smoke. Before he could retract his arm, 2 more clones burst from the snow. When had the blonde even hid them there? Another clone appeared just where his arm was, holding a kunai at hand. Another was just where his snowboard was. The clone snatched it up and took a single step forward. While he tried to retract his arm, the clone on the ground swung its kunai, cutting the thread holding his arm, much to his surprise. But there was no moment to dwell on it as the other clone hurled his snowboard toward him. Mizore quickly folded his hands across his chest, seeing it was where the snowboard was going to hit. The board hit him, but the second it touched his hands, it exploded. Boom. He cursed silently, gritting his teeth in pain. The explosion was minimal, but the sparks had coursed through his body like lightning. There was a resounding explosion up in the air of intense flames with a bit of black within them. The flames brought a wave of heat for a moment. Mizore burst out of the flames, lunging to a distance away to safety with a furious look on his face. Mokuton. Wooden locking prison. Mizore's eyes glanced to the sides as wooden pillars burst from the snow. They were all around him. His only method of escaping was above. But before he could jump, the pillars joined, locking him within. Naruto turned away from the man and faced at Sakura. The main objective here had to get the princess to safety. And everyone else. This wasn't a good place to fight. What is wrong with her? He asked Sakura, seeing the princess sprawled on the snow. Hands around her head, with haunted eyes. It was like she was reliving a bad dream. Mental issues, Sakura grunted. Run, Naruto ordered. He created 3 solid clones. The clones picked up the princess and then Sandayu before dashing toward the ship. Sasuke moved at the same time as Naruto. But unlike the blonde, he was quick off his feet. While darting through the snow toward his opponent, he took out a couple of shuriken from his pouch and then hurled them toward her. Fubuki didn't bother trying to dodge the shuriken. A smirk merely formed across her lips as she continued rushing toward the black-haired teen. The shuriken shattered into bits upon crashing into her chest. She immediately took advantage of the situation by doing a couple of hand seals. Sasuke jumped up after sensing a wave of chakra from below. Ice burst out of the snow, nearly catching him on his feet. But he blurred away just in time to avoid the jutsu. He landed a distance away, but not too far off from the princess. There was no telling that if he tried to drag the woman away, she'd follow him. Her objective was the princess, so he always had to stand in the way. There was no time to think as he was forced to jump into the air once more as ice was pulled out from the snow once more. While still airborne, Sasuke took out a kunai with an explosive tag, threw it down at the ice. The tag exploded into a fiery of intense crimson flames. The flames seemingly engulfed Sasuke. Fubuki smiled and then turned her attention toward the princess. There was no need to waste time. She quickly dashed toward Koyuki. While running through the snow, a smoke bomb fell in front of her and then exploded. She could see nothing within the smoke. The wings on her back flapped as she tried to take off into the air. Though she managed to take off slightly, her eyes snapped to her legs as she felt something. 2 threads hand bundled her legs together. Without turning back, she glanced behind, and saw Sasuke standing still with his hands held together. These people were not strong as those he has faced. It was nothing compared to Zabuza. And training in the same field with Naruto really did help. Sasuke felt like he was powerful. He couldn't help but put a smirk on his lips as he pulled the wires. The sudden pull dragged the woman down, slamming her on the snow with her head first, getting buried. Sasuke gathered oxygen within his lungs, measuring the release of his chakra careful. Within one large outtake, breathed out a stream of crimson flames, and they spread through the wires. Fubuki snarled as she spat out snow as she pulled out herself from the snow. Her legs were still bundled together and flames were spreading toward her. She pulled up ice from the snow, freezing the wires. More ice formed, colliding with the flames. Steam rose upon the mixture of the two elements. While trying to cut the wire, Fubuki glanced up. Sasuke had suddenly flashed just above her. She didn't give the Uchiha a time to attack her. Ice burst out around her within seconds of Sasuke appearing. Sasuke frowned slightly but decided against wasting chakra to melt the ice. Just as the ice was going to freeze him, he did a replacement jutsu, replacing himself with a heater. Looking good, Sasu-chan. Naruto stated as Sasuke flashed behind him, their back against the ship that was moving back to the sea. You move well, surprised you used Mokuton like that. Naruto shrugged. Their armor is bothersome with other jutsu. It requires something like brute force to get through. Besides, there wasn't time for something elaborate. The princess is in the ship. Sasuke couldn't help but grin. We can go ahead and attack. The one you had is still locked up. With Kakashi still busy with his opponent, there was nothing against what Sasuke was suggesting it. Naruto shared the Uchiha's grin. Tag team. Sometimes when Sasuke was in a good mood, he didn't mind working well with him. It was time they tested how well they moved either way. Let's go then. Fubuki glanced toward where Mizore was locked up and then at the two brats. The princess was already at the ship. Failure. Dodo wasn't going to be pleased. Especially when it had been just brats who stood in the way. It was better to deal with them now rather than later. They were only going to be a nuisance later on. She saw a shuriken twisting along the air toward her. Didn't they learn? This wasn't going to do anything to her. The armor created a wall of chakra that stopped even those kind of attacks. Then again, they were just brats. She waited until the shuriken hit her, but much to her surprise, the piece of metal didn't shatter. It exploded into a puff of smoke. Two hands burst out of the smoke, grabbing her around the shoulders. She was pulled into the smoke, while being twisted around. The person wrapped his legs around her waist, hands now around the back of her neck, her hands were pressed in. He was holding onto her very tightly. She gritted her teeth, trying to move free, but she felt like she was gripped by a strongman. Let me go, she yelled at the blonde. No can do. This armor is proving to be a problem. Your biggest weapon. We want to see what it will take to destroy it. While darting toward Fubuki and Naruto's clone, Sasuke hurled a kunai with a wire tied around it. It was an easy target as Naruto had her in one place. The blonde never did let go once he held you. He was like a magnet. And it was going to take stabbing him on the gut for that woman to get him off her. The kunai twisted around her legs, just above her ankle, and the wire tied her legs together. Sasuke pulled, causing the two to fall over to the snow, with Naruto hitting first and Fubuki atop of him. Chidori. The sound of birds chirping. His one move learned from Kakashi. The lightning cutter at hand, Sasuke increased his speed. Once he was closer, he bent down while driving his jutsu toward Fubuki's chest. The lightning burst when it made contact, but was unable to break through at once. He pushed further, trying to pierce through the chakra shield until something in the armor cracked. He pushed further, and the armor started to crack. But it was still not enough. Why, I am not surprised that you couldn't do it, Naruto suddenly said after appearing from nowhere. He landed on Sasuke's right side, holding a bunch of explosive tags. Sasuke stopped, and then shot Naruto a glare before jumping back as Naruto dropped the explosive tags. Fubuki swore. This was an overkill. What was the blonde made out of anyway that he didn't budge? Her chakra was cracked. Any more of that, and it would have been destroyed. Those explosive tags. The merciless brats were trying to kill her. By the way, I'm also going to explode. The clone stated. This isn't how I like to do things, but if I explode, it should dent this armor. And the explosive tag will do it. Best of all, a closed area ensures that you receive the full force of the explosion. Fubuki wanted to glare at the blonde, but she wasn't in a position to do anything. He was not normal. There was something he was doing to strengthen his body. She was taking chakra, but he didn't appear bothered by it. Do your best, she replied confidently but with a hint of frustrations. Mokuton. Wooden locking prison. He created the same jutsu he used on Mizor. This time, he encased both his clone and Fubuki within. He did a quick jump, landing beside Sasuke once more. This is how it is done. Boom. There was only the sound of the explosion, but not even smoke came through the pillars. They held on firmly until flames started burning through. Naruto slapped himself across the face. Smart. Naruto. Very smart. Fire will always burn wood. While the flames were still burning, Kakashi flashed behind both Naruto and Sasuke. He put a hand on their shoulders and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. We had things covered. Sasuke's first words when they appeared in the deck of the ship. The crew was marveling at the great piece they had just captured. We have more things to worry about. We had them. Naruto put a hand on Sasuke's shoulder. Smiling, he said, we got a part in the movie, isn't that a great thing? Kakashi sighed. At least, they managed to get out of this without any casualties. In the next one, they would be more prepared. If the enemy had gotten desperate, they could have gone for the ship. There are too many people here. Our first priority is to them. Sasuke still grumbled. They were winning. They probably would have won if they stayed to fight. When he was teaming up with Naruto, they could defeat anyone. You think we got her? Yup. Naruto replied with a nod. Why were they even attacking her? Good question, but something they would talk about with Princess Yukie and Sandayu. He hadn't thought things would come to this point. But it was happening and they had to deal with it. If anything, things seemed like they could go well. Kakashi no longer had to worry too much about his two students. At least, even Sasuke was making good use of the jutsu he taught him and Naruto was using Mokuton. We will talk about it. But first, let me say both of you did well. I'm proud of you. The Jonin praised with an eye smile. Hard work pays. Naruto flashed Kakashi a grin. Sasuke, though, seemed to be caught between two thoughts. Whether he should smile in pride or just grunt. In the end, he did neither but just folded his hands across his chest and looked away. Evidently, Kakashi replied to Naruto. At least even Sakura had stood her ground. When they had just started, she would have outright refused to take Naruto's instruction. But now, she did as told. But standing her ground doesn't mean she would have done a better job. After all, her illusions would not have worked against those opponents. She truly was a mismatch in this team. She needed to improve or else the Sandaime would make true to his word. He glanced at Naruto. The blonde had better command of the team. Sasuke was of course the smarter one. But he sometimes lacked compassion and became too engrossed in the mission he looked away from his teammates. Sometimes he did better. But when it came to looking after the needs of the team, Naruto did it better. Both nonetheless did what needed to be done when it needed to be done. He would have thought Naruto would hesitate, but he could be like Sasuke, just less ruthless. No, much more ruthless than Sasuke. After all, Sasuke always acted based on emotions, and when it came to it, Naruto could be a rational being, discarding all emotions. But those were not the most powerful enemies we have faced. Naruto added. Sasuke nodded in agreement with Naruto. He was happy that he had managed things without getting beat, but shinobi from the Great Five posed more danger than these. Were standards really that different? They depend on their armor. But they are strong shinobi. Kakashi responded in a firm tone. Naruto, you were employing shadow clones. You just don't throw them. But you use them efficiently to create more bodies. Anyone would struggle if they are not used to it. Shinobi from this side are not exposed to the many things in the elemental nations. Well, sometimes, tactics win battles. We almost got Zabuza despite him being powerful because of tactics. Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. Brutal force doesn't always get the job done. If you know the weakness of your opponent, you can defeat them. Bingo books are useful for this purpose. Kakashi paused, turning to the incoming Sakura. The girl looked relieved about something. Everything okay? She nodded. She is fine. She'd just fainted after shouting that she was not going back. She appeared to be reliving some past trauma. That is the case. You know something. That man did call her Princess Koyuki and you looked shocked when you heard it. She plays a princess, but there appears to be something more to the story. Sasuke was staring at Kakashi, waiting for an answer. If it is true, she is a real princess of the Snow Country. I'll discuss the details once I have privately spoken to Sandayu. Sandayu glanced at Kakashi and smiled weakly. He was sitting beside Princess Koyuki's bed. The woman was sitting up, an expressionless mask on her face. The Jonin remained standing, watching the two for a moment before finally speaking. I suspected something when I first saw you. Kakashi started speaking. You probably do not remember me, he said to Yukie. He was the one who saved her life from certain death years ago. She was still a child then. She glanced at him coldly. I'm not going to the snow. We have already gone through this, princess. We are already there anyway. You tricked me, Sandayu. There is nothing for me there. There was nothing but pain and despair. That cold land that made your heart cold had nothing for her. She was fine in the land of fire. Happy, no. But she was alive and not facing any tragedy. There is something for you. Your people are waiting for you to return to your home. I have already spoken to them. We will return. Sandayu replied forcefully and then looked at Kakashi. I'm sorry I kept this from you. But I requested you specifically because you already dealt with those people before. What was with these people and putting his team in danger? You should have told us the real reason. We indeed have to protect the princess, but not having any knowledge of who we face puts my team at risk. I understand, but whether you decide to turn away or not, we are still going to take our country back. I have gathered enough people to fight. Kakashi shook his head. Are they shinobi? No. Civilians who are willing to give anything for their country. A good thing but unnecessary. You can't send civilians to fight against shinobi. They will just get killed. Don't do anything. We will deal with it. Kakashi said firmly. He smiled. Even if I ordered the team to sit back and wait for reinforcements, Naruto and Sasuke would not permit it. They have already tasted battle and will say they will be more than enough. They are going to get killed. You should just save your lives and return home. But if you want to die needlessly, do so. A woman who had her hopes crushed. When someone crushes your childhood, you start thinking they were all powerful. For Koyuki, she couldn't tell the difference in power because she was just a civilian. Her mind was scarred by the tragedy of her childhood. She found it impossible to look beyond this mountain. He ignored her words and faced Sandayu. What is it about the crystal? Yes. Your uncle then. My father said the crystal was a key to the treasure of the snow. When you spoke about treasure, one was thinking about money, anything of monetary value. I will need that for safekeeping. That is what he wants, not you. Life was unfair at times. Not everyone had demons. And you did not apply F0R it. They just rammed into your life and then left you scarred for life, and sometimes finding a knife to be very attractive in spilling out your guts. Sakura had no such demons. Everyone in the team had issues. But Sakura was careless. She had nothing to worry about because she was free. It was no wonder she didn't take this life of a kunoichi seriously. Perhaps if she experienced a little bit of Princess Yukie's misery, she would take this business very seriously. Naruto hoped that she wouldn't realize the hardship until it was too late. But who knew? The only struggle she had in this life was trying to win over her beloved Sasuke. Such thoughts made him envious. It was a cruelly bitter feeling that made his eyes turn cold. He shook his head, leaned against the frame of the ship, and stared at the bottomless water. Kakashi was standing on his right, with Sasuke on the left and Sakura by Sasuke's side. Their sensei had just finished explaining to them what the issue with Koyuki was. We still continue with the mission? Sasuke asked. Of course. Good. A little bit relieved. There had been the possibility that Kakashi would make them wait for others. There may not be that many enemy to encounter as far as Sandayu is concerned. We will not be going against an entire village, but against one man and his henchmen. Kakashi said in a stern tone. He gave Sakura a stern look. The look made the girl flinch. I considered not saying anything or even just tell you only, but we are a team and I want everyone to know this. What? Sakura asked cautiously. She was sure she wasn't going to like what she was going to hear. You're severely outmatched in the team. You need not be as strong as both Naruto and Sasuke. But as things stand, you don't offer anything to the team and it creates an imbalance. Whenever there is a mission, none of us can do anything without having to worry that you'll hold your own. We always have to worry about you. There are missions that we might not even be able to do because you are not ready for them, and going there only threatens your life. The Sandaime Hokage has said that if things continue like this, you will be removed from the team. Kakashi glanced at his other students. Sasuke looked indifferent, and Naruto, well, he was Naruto. There was just a raised brow, but he couldn't read anything from the blonde. That is unfair. Kakashi shook his head. How many times have you been saved, Sakura? She blinked, unable to say anything. She couldn't be removed from Sasuke's team. No way was she going to accept that decision. The Jonin smiled. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand the situation you are in. You need to grow up, Sakura. And this is your chance to do so. I have to submit a report to the Sandaime. Your reaction from henceforth will determine whether you stay or leave the team. He paused. Rest up. We don't know what awaits us when we reach our destination. A little unexpected but not irrational. There was always a chance that Sakura could be killed. Anyone could be killed really. But chances were higher with Sakura. Don't let it get to you. That is the test Kakashi-sensei is giving you. Strength is not merely physical prowess but also mental strength. There are things you can do to improve on. Do that. Don't try to match Sasuke. Give it your best. That is what is required of you. How low had she fallen that she had to receive a lecture from Naruto? This was sick. She comforted herself by thinking about her beloved Sasuke. What do you think, Sasuke-kun? HN. The Uchiha merely shrugged with indifference. Naruto sighed. He wanted to tell her she was a hopeless little girl, but he didn't want to break her spirit. Wherever Tsunade was, there was always ruckus. If she was drunk and losing money, things normally had to be flying about. It was no different this time. Jiraiya had been welcomed by a flying man, crashing through the door, and a second later, a clearly drunk Tsunade stormed out of the building. The dutiful Shizune following her from behind with their pet pig. What a waste of meat, he thought mildly. Tsunade did notice him, but she acted as if she hadn't and just turned to the right, marching with the legendary sucker tag following her from behind like a dark cloud. For a woman who loved gambling, she had bad luck. There was no one who matched her bad luck. The chances of her going on a winning streak were as slim as Orochimaru returning to the Leaf to apologize for his actions. Jiraiya followed the woman to a restaurant. He sat beside Shizune, and stared at her. His childhood crush. After a moment, he smiled, but the smile was not returned. What do you want? Tsunade demanded. No social calls. She was always cold to him. Maybe it was because he continued to annoy her about a return to the Leaf. She had once took a swing at him when he'd been trying out his luck. Lucky for him, she had been drunk but sober enough to reject going back to Konoha. Sensei sent me. He is still alive? Tsunade asked with a raised eyebrow. He still has some years left in him. Jiraiya responded in a serious tone. It is serious this time. Isn't it always? Jiraiya shook his head. You know he has always had a soft spot for his students. He was always kind. Even with Orochimaru. He refused to see the darkness within until it was too late. Orochimaru was just his favored student. Tsunade scoffed. Funny that his favored student was the one who turned on him and may most likely lead to his death. You could call Orochimaru sensei's protege. Jiraiya would not deny that. Unlike him, Orochimaru had been a genius. Just like their sensei. They could understand each other when they spoke. His former friend picked up things far quicker than him. In any case, he has also been willing in your case. He has said no more. Return to Konoha and run the village hospital. Or what? In the next issue of the Bingo book, you will be placed as a rogue kunoichi. Tsunade laughed. Are you serious? Jiraiya looked at her sternly. It may not be much of a problem for you because you are a Sanin. But once the bounty is placed on your head, you'll have to look over your shoulder because that is how they will come after you. Whether you are drunk and out cold, they will come after you. They might get Shizune and you might make it, but for the rest of your life, you'll live like a criminal. That sounds like a threat. Jiraiya shook his head, smiling sadly. I hate to say those words to you, Haim, but Sensei is serious this time. He is even planning on having Orochimaru killed and everything he has built destroyed. Return home. But if not, know that before other hidden villages send their best after you, I will be the one coming after you first. Whether I have to break your legs to get it done, I'll do so. Tsunade narrowed her eyes dangerously. You speak as if you can. Jiraiya smiled sadly. No free hits this time, Heim. To say the snow country was detestable would be too strong of a word. But it wasn't likable either. Who lived in a country that was just eternally snow? There should be a season for the snow to fall and a season to be living under the shades of trees. But in this nation, it was just damn coldness, and that reached the core of the bones. Naruto had only taken a couple of steps after getting off the ship, but he disliked this country already. Though reasons differed, he could understand a little when the princess said there was nothing in here. Thinking of the woman, he turned to her. She had tried running, but they already knew she was a runner. A leash was prepared for her. Figuratively at least. Still, she looked miserable. Even more so than normal now that she was in a land she'd been forced to enter. A daughter of the past daimyo, refusing to return to her home to help her suffering people. Yet, Naruto couldn't call her selfish. If he did the same, anybody who dared call him selfish needed a knock to the head to help them think properly. Standing beside her was Sakura. She looked fine, but he knew she was still burning over what their sensei told her. Around, the crew was standing up their cameras. They were ready for their act. Sandeu insisted on fishing filming first before they even get to enter the streets of the snow. Thought you'd be against this. Kakashi shook his head, halting beside the blonde. I was, but the client has his needs. Besides, they will be drawn out here. Isn't it going to repeat the same situation as before? We don't have to worry about the ship getting wrecked. Naruto nodded. Hopefully one of them isn't able to join them. It makes it simpler. But there is still the boss. Unlikely to come at once, but we shall see. We just have to be ready for anything. To prepare, that was the best one could do at times, but sometimes no matter how you prepare, it was never enough. There were just some mountains that no amount of preparation could help you overcome. They just immense themselves in your, slowly suffocating you until you tap out. Yeah, Naruto paused, staring at the action behind the cameras. Sakura is taking the news with shock. Expected. Kakashi sighed. But she needs to accept it and grow. She hasn't changed her attitude no matter the challenges she has faced. She lives in a bubble. Being constantly saved, and not having to face any difficulties herself because we shield her, has made her into this. When everything is handed to you, you can't change their perception. You've done your part trying to change her, even with her infatuation with Sasuke. Obsession. Naruto corrected. She refuses to change. I can understand the Sandame's worries in this situation. We were meant to balance each other. She was smart in the academy and did the basics well, but this is no longer the academy. If she cannot adapt to that, the only choice left is for her to go to another team or quit being a kunoichi. Kakashi's eyes narrowed slightly. The words came out coldly. Was it unexpected? No. Naruto was like that. Besides, Sakura was truly a burden to the team. He have to worry. Naruto had already offered to help. 10 long years of searching, and now she was finally here, having returned on her accord. Dodo had taken over this country thinking there were riches, but instead, he'd killed his brother and inherited poverty. Of course, there was hidden treasure, and a treasure that could only be accessed by a key Koyuki had in her possession. After so many years, even knowing how she looked like had been a challenge. The key had been the crystal. She'd done well by changing her name and hiding in plain sight. He stared at his trusted subordinates with a bit of disappointment. It has been years, but for them to fail when their target was so close disturbed his patience. He no longer had any to begin with. His heart was burning with impatience. I expected you to return with the crystal, Nader. Nader looked down for a moment and then faced his boss. We encountered a problem that we were not expecting. I can see that. Dodo replied in a flat tone. Fubuki wasn't with them. To lose an arm wasn't tolerable if there was nothing achieved. If they had gotten the crystal, then he could have understood things. They have already arrived and are setting up their things. We can handle them once we go. We will have a surprise for them. You failed when it was 3 of you. And now there is 2, can you succeed? We can, Dodo-sama. Nader replied with complete confidence in his abilities and the armor. Go then. I'll join you shortly if I see you failing. Each with his own problems, huh? Naruto thought mildly as he held a cup of tea, Koyuki in front of him, a heater between them. The others were on the drawing table, after wrapping up the scene from here. The extras were all gathered around, having their meals while laughing and making comments about the great movie they were shooting. Naruto wasn't complaining. After all, he now had a role in the movie. How I wish Sakura understood a little bit of your pain and suffering. He said mildly. Maybe then, she would learn what it meant to be a kunoichi and wouldn't be so useless. Quite frankly, it was ridiculous that she thought of being useful to Sasuke but couldn't even help sharpen his knives simply because she didn't know how. Make up. How many times to bath and then stare at the mirror, she could do that with the expertise of a professor. But the real job failed her miserably. Maybe it won't be so bad if she was removed from the team. Koyuki glanced at him and then drank her tea silently. It was suffocating having those cold blue eyes stare at her every moment. He was like a bug she couldn't shake off. Even when she had to go to the small room, he wouldn't let her out of his sight. Silence. Huh. Naruto smiled. But still, this place is damn freezing. I'd die if I had to spend a whole month here. Once more it was just silence. But after a couple of moments, Koyuki spoke, but she was not replying to his statement. Why don't you just leave me alone? I'm here but I won't do anything Sandeu wants me to do. She said so hopelessly yet so firm. Smiling sadly, Naruto replied in a quiet tone. How I wish I was you. The people of this country want you. Maybe because they need a leader. Honestly, you are not one and can't save them. Yet, they want you. I think it is not fair. I can offer much to my village, yet its people do not want me. They'd celebrate my death. She glanced up at him curiously. His words were cold. He wasn't offering none of that annoying talk. She wanted to smile, but failed to do so. How lucky of me. Koyuki ended up responding with sarcasm. Yeah, Naruto said in the same tone as the princess. Well, whatever happens afterwards isn't our problem. We will do what we were hired to do and then depart. It will involve dealing with your uncle and that means there will be no one left to control this nation. It would be sad if you did not take up the role. Quite a mockery of what you play in the screens. I'm an actress. Is it irony that you chose to become an actress? Naruto asked with a smile. The fact that you still carry the crystal means you have not quite completely forgotten about home. It is good, but rather, he paused, hearing a different sound. Something is coming, he said, standing up to face the direction of the sound. A train, Sandeu shouted, seeing the tracks on the snow. Everyone get back. It must be Dodo's men. Train. Now that was a foreign word. But he didn't need much explanation from anyone as the slithering machine roared to life while heading toward them. It was a different kind of transport that they used in the elemental nations. Instead of being amazed by this, take good care of the princess. Kakashi cautioned him. Naruto hadn't even felt the Jonin appear before him. She was the main target and they would protect her life even if it meant they had to watch everyone else die. You couldn't save everyone. No one had that power. But it didn't stop people from hoping. Got her. Naruto replied. The train came to a halt in front of them. Everyone else was standing back while to avoid any casualties. Give us the princess and we will be on our way from here. A cold booming voice from the train called out. Well, that is a stupid request to make. Sasuke said calmly. Already on a stance. Even if there was nothing to lose, he would not give her away. Not when it would result in them going away without a fight. Sensei, I'm feeling a bit motivated. Do you mind if I destroy the train? It could be weapon for all we know. Kakashi glanced at Naruto. This definitely had something to do with meeting Orochimaru. He'd never seen Naruto use this much of Mokuton in just one mission. After a moment, he nodded. Go ahead. Sakura, you're with Koyuki. Hi. Naruto nodded his head, and did and signs before holding his hands together. Mokuton. Deep forest creation. The ground trembled slightly even though they stood on snow. Within seconds, trees sprouted from the snow. It was like a large dense forest. As quick as they sprouted, they marched toward the train. There was no resistance. The trees burst through the train. They ripped it apart as if they were alive. Within a minute, the roots had entirely decimated the train and now rested on the snow with chunks of the train submerged underneath. Impressed, Kakashi was. But he did not miss the look from Sasuke when Naruto released his jutsu. He would have commented on it if their opponents hadn't stepped out of the wreckage to stare it from the roots. Naruto, Sasuke, you take Mizore, I'll handle Nader. The Jonin said, pushing up his headband. There was no need to hang about without taking things too seriously from the get-go. Naruto faced Sasuke for a second and then spoke. So, Sasuke, how do we handle this one? Genjutsu surely doesn't work because of the armor he wears. Sasuke still felt threatened by the jutsu Naruto had displayed. He couldn't do anything like that. And Naruto was keeping it from him. He clenched his jaws in anger and then faced the man standing above the roots Naruto had created. Where do you think the boss is? Hiding somewhere. Most likely. Naruto responded in thought. It just means we need to keep an eye on the princess. I will have a clone keep watch, just in case. Can't have Sakura as the last defense line. We'd be screwed. Sasuke grunted in agreement. He activated his Sharingan. He had no appetite to make things longer. He just wanted to end this quickly. And besides, he was a little ticked off after what he'd seen, and Naruto was ignoring his mood, purposefully. Let's go. Both dashed toward Mizore. Mizore glared at Naruto specifically. The blonde had cost him. And because of the two, they no longer had Fubuki. Mizore could see the two brats darting toward him. They hoped to flank him. Stupid brats. The blonde usually sent out a clone to charge first. Which meant the real one was probably hiding somewhere. Maybe below him. Maybe behind. Either way, he was going to show up somewhere. And he had to be ready for that. The Uchiha was on his right. He could deal with the clone later. He released his metal claw. The hand sped toward Sasuke. Within a second, it had reached the Uchiha. But he jumped over it. Mizore was caught watching Sasuke as the Uchiha twisted in midair, and then hurled 4 small shuriken at him. That was nothing, Mizore thought. His armor would protect him. His eyes flashed toward his left. Naruto was closer. He started retreating his claw. I'm not going to fall for the same trick again. Naruto reached him, his right hand stretched out for a pathetic attempt to punch him on his upper body. His large hand grabbed the punch and he squeezed. The clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Mizore's eyes quickly flashed below. There was nowhere he was going to come out from aside from below. Hidden within the dense roots. To his shock, nothing came from below. Worse, instead of bouncing off his armor, the shuriken twisted around his body. It was then that he realized the threads tied to the shuriken. His hands became wrapped along his body. Mizore swore. He attempted to use his strength and the armor to cut off the threads. But, it was the sound of birds chirping that alarmed him. He glanced to the right through the corner of his eyes. The Uchiha was darting through the roots in speed, lightning crackling on his right hand. On the left, Naruto had his own jutsu. A small round ball of chakra. The two blurred out of sight. The next second, they had closed the distance. The Uchiha wasn't in front of him, but slightly above the air, swinging his jutsu toward his chest. The jutsu slammed, causing sparks of lightning to light. The blonde was in similar position. His jutsu slammed onto his back. Mizore felt his armor breaking. He felt relief when the two suddenly flashed away from him. But, relief turned into horror. His body was plastered with explosive tags. And one glaring heater, planted with tags, came falling down. It was on slow motion. In front of him. His armor had already was no surviving this. He closed his eyes. Boom. From a distance, both Naruto and Sasuke landed on the snow, watching the fireworks. Well, that was effective. The collective effort is truly something to behold. Naruto remarked, congratulating himself on a job well done. To effectively deal with their opponent with strategies and not just raw power was quite fun. Your tags were a little too much. You used them on the last occasion as well. Sasuke was staring. How many did you even bring for the mission? All my stock. I don't use a lot of weapons. I usually just buy kunai. But I'm not usually throwing them around like you. So I can spend the earnings on tags. Sasuke shook his head. I hope they explode on you. I'd die. Nobody would cry. Now, you're just being cold. You mad I showed you up with that jutsu? Naruto asked with a smirk on his face. Sasuke glared. He had nothing like that. But then again, he didn't have the same amount of chakra Naruto had. He wasn't even using the power of the Biju inside of him. Just how much more powerful could Naruto become? No matter what he seemed to do, the blonde always seemed to pull something of his magic hat. It was bothering him. Seeing the look, Naruto shook his head. Disappointing. Truly is. To think that you would feel so inferior over a little jutsu. Truly, a fragile person you are. I'm not fragile, Sasuke replied in a forceful tone. A hint of anger in his voice. But I hate that you seem to always have something in your tank. Naruto raised an eyebrow. If Sasuke unlocked the potential of the Sharingan, there was nothing to discuss. Oh, this power-hungry fool. Say, Sasuke, if Orochimaru offered you power, would you take it? Why wouldn't I? He has certainly helped you. Sasuke replied without giving it any thought. Once more, Naruto shook his head. Disappointing once more. It would be a pity if you abandoned everyone simply because your little pride was hurt. You shoal. Dodo wasn't pleased to see his trusted guards failing. The Brats had taken care of Mizor quite easily and Nader was fighting a losing battle. Why did he have to do everything himself? Should he have bothered to give them the same armor as his? He shook his head. No need. They were weak. Hence they failed. The target was before him anyway. Within seconds, he was in front of Koyuki. He completely disregarded the girl guarding her. Koyuki. The princess glared at the man who was her uncle. The killer of his own brother. For power. For wealth. What disgusting things people do to even those of their blood. Seeing his cold glare, she felt afraid. Afraid for her life. She didn't even have the crystal with her. Was he going to kill her? Was she going to die? She shouldn't have come here. Even when Sakura stepped in front of her, holding out a kunai, Koyuki didn't feel safe. She felt even sorry for the girl. She was clearly afraid of the giant in front of her. Yet she still braved. Don't waste your life on me, Koyuki said hopelessly. Sakura gritted her teeth. Her heart was pounding. But she couldn't fold. Even when the princess had given up. This was her mission. What good was she if she couldn't even stand guard for a second? This is my job, Sakura shouted, more to herself than to Koyuki. If you want the princess, you'll have to go through me first. Dodo didn't even think before lifting his right foot. He wanted to swat the girl away from his target. But while his foot was airborne, heading straight to the face of the stricken girl, a root suddenly burst from the ground, catching it around the ankle. He was held firmly. He narrowed his eyes, and quickly flashed his right arm, palm open. Naruto saw the hand coming toward him but did nothing to avoid it. It was like an iron grip on his face. Struggling was a waste of energy. But he still struggled to break free. Perhaps it was the instinctive nature of the mind. If the ground had been solid, he would have felt the pain through his back when the man slammed him down. But there was just the puff sound as he was buried deep into the snow. Dodo looked up. The girl had moved away. The princess had also been moved back with the other brat. He attempted to stomp on the blonde, but he rolled away. Dodo didn't follow. He glanced back at the princess. It was merely just going to take a couple of more minutes and effort, but he was going to get his price. Slowly, he started moving toward the princess. His movements came to a halt. A ripple pattern just around his right shoulder. He felt like he was being sucked in. He couldn't get away. His arm is the first casualty. He swore, crying inwardly as pain shot through his spine. His arm was torn from his shoulder. The blood gushing out and the feeling that his entire body was going to get sucked in wasn't the biggest worry. No, the pain that had him frozen. And the pull he felt on side of his ribcage. Lucky for him, the strange wormhole pulled parts of his advanced armor. It wasn't a decent pull. It left the right side exposed. A bit of flesh showing. And then the thing suddenly stopped. He fell on his knees. Gasping for air. He couldn't do anything to stop the blood from gushing out. A bit of bleed on his Sharingan. Kakashi ignored it and the pain. In Sasuke's fashion but with more purpose, speed and strength, he darted through the snow, heading straight toward his fallen enemy. Seeing the incoming attack, Dodo flapped the wings of his armor. Good thing for him, they were still working. He felt relief. He could escape and try again. This wasn't what he wanted, but there was no other way. Not in his state. The relief he felt turned into despair after picking up into the air. His feet had already left the ground, but roots protruded from the ground, wrapping around his ankles. As he struggled to pull away, the Konoha shinobi lunged. Reikiri. He was precise in where he hit. The part on his chest where the armor was torn off. The shock went in his body. Lightning. He couldn't help but yelp in pain as the jutsu stabbed into his body. He felt like it hit his lungs. No, it didn't it? That was his thought as he began to fall down the ground. Everything turning upside down, his vision becoming blurry. In a thud, he hit the snow. Kakashi landed on one knee, his breathing labored slightly. He closed his Sharingan, quickly put the headband to cover it. Well, you took care of things quickly. Naruto's mysterious tone filled his airwaves. Kakashi turned to the blonde, standing beside him with his hands held together. We had to. I used a little bit of chakra with the Sharingan. You hardly use it. I know it does take a lot from you. But if you don't train yourself to use it, you never get used to it. I mistake reliance with training. Kakashi replied earnestly as he gathered his breath. He then stood up. We don't even know if there are more who will come. And there is still much work to do here. There was no reason to prolong a battle when the client was watching. Besides, he pointed at the armed civilians coming along the way. If they had arrived while he was still standing, there would have been casualties. Naruto finished for his sensei. Yes, I took the best option to avoid that. Naruto nodded. Well, if that is it for the enemy, we can spend the rest of our time in leisure. And I can enjoy that movie part 1 earned for myself. This overwhelming emotion that threatened to her with grins and a dash across the village to announce her return to home was something she had missed while thousands of miles away from home. More than a month of snow, and now she was back where she belonged. The place where she felt safe and free. The place where she didn't have to constantly look over her shoulders because someone might attack. A place where she didn't feel like a burden to anyone. She couldn't even wait to see the look on Ino's face when she tells her of her great adventure. Disappointedly, she wouldn't be doing much in the movie. Either way, this had been a great experience. Home, finally, Sakura exclaimed happily. Naruto glanced at the girl and then looked back at the monstrous village gates before looking back at the streets. They were indeed back to this place called home. He was happy. But it didn't take long for Konoha to remind him that he was not wanted. Either way, the rush of blood was there. The content emotion gripped his heart fully and blocked any other disruptive emotion that threatened to put a sad veil across his face. Regardless of the tragedies, this was still his home. He was born here and he would make it here. I thought our time in the snow was quite lovely. I wouldn't have been against staying there for a little longer. Nobody likes you here. Sakura snapped back at him, without thinking much of her words. Ouch. Naruto put on a hurt look. Your words can really hurt at times, Sakura. He then wiped out an imaginary tear. How ignorant was she going to be? Was she going to continue blocking everything in favor of her obsession with Sasuke? If she was going to continue with this attitude, it was better she was removed from the team. Did she even have any idea just how right she was, and this was the source of his misery and loneliness? An ignorant little girl indeed. You should be more careful with your words, Sakura. You speak of things you do not understand. Much to the surprise of everyone else, and maybe a shock to Sakura, it was Sasuke who spoke. His tone had been so cold, even Naruto felt shook. Sakura looked baffled. Sasuke reproaching her. What the hell was happening here? Was someone conspiring against her? It was Kakashi's glass-shattering news, and now it was this. She had been called useless by Sasuke before and Naruto hinted it. But for her to end a mission like this, her happiness was just completely drained. She could brush off the words as nothing more than a spare of the moment thing, but that cold look that she had often seen reserved for the empty space was now glaring at her. She flinched with discomfort and looked down. After a moment, she glanced at her sensei. He was reading his book, casually walking with one hand inside his pocket. Her eyes went to Naruto. Their eyes met. He was smiling. A kind of infuriating smile. She thought he was mocking her. As he usually did. Well, there is some truth in that, if we are to be honest. You often make light of the circumstances that surround us. Me, especially. You may dismiss me because I am an orphan. But fail to sympathize. You do not understand what Sasuke and I have to go through because we do not have parents. It is not that you cannot. You just don't want. He paused, just to let the words sink in. I suppose if you must want to, you need to understand why Sasuke and I can get along. Sakura frowned deeply. Sympathize with Naruto. Ridiculous. First of all, their situations were not the same. Sasuke lost his parents while Naruto had never had any. She wanted to shout at him. Think it deeply. Kakashi's sharp and stern words cut through her thoughts like a double-edged sword. The man wasn't even looking at her. What was there to think about? Naruto never had any parents and thus he wasn't taught anything by anyone. What was it even like not to have a mother? To go home and just be alone with no one to love you. Both her teammates were now going through the same situations. There was no one waiting for them. They were just going to their places and just be alone. She gritted her teeth and shoved those deep thoughts at the back of her head. She saw it clearly but she didn't want to swallow it. Sorry. The word came out without any meaning. And Naruto knew it. His response said as much. How hollow. Naruto's sharp response. Shove that up your useless behind, Sakura. For a moment, Sakura stopped walking, her body tense. She felt as if she'd been stabbed. There was no anger in Naruto's voice. It was the simplicity in which he said it that made her afraid. Kakashi just sighed and shut his book. Naruto was going to be normal tomorrow. He wasn't going to let this get to him. But perhaps it was better to give them some space to think things through. You go on and rest. I will report to the Sandaime Hokage. I will also request a break for the next 7 days to help us recuperate. That is welcome, Naruto said, in a staring contest with the heavens. For the first time, he didn't feel like training and just wanted to rest. I hope the Sandaime agrees. He will. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura started a bit hesitantly. The journey through to Konoha made her fearful. She didn't want to go home. She knew what was likely waiting for her. Humiliation. It haunted her even in daylight. This part was made her afraid. She bit her tongue. The talk just now hadn't really improved her image in the team. It seemed like everyone was against her. She needed to take a stand or otherwise, she would be gone. Yes. About my training. When do you think I can begin? I don't want to be a burden anymore. If Sakura hadn't said those words, Kakashi would have reported to the Sandaime that things would need to change in the team. Her attitude was still a problem. Admittedly, even her lack of professionalism was all due to him as her sensei. He failed to train her. He wasn't going to force her. But he has chosen to play the referee in many situations and just an observer rather than the sensei. It was owed to that Naruto and Sasuke were proactive. He only taught Sasuke his jutsu to make up for the gap with Naruto. This was after the Uchiha asked him. He would have refused under normal circumstances, but they did missions which were dangerous. And the power was needed. I'll make a plan and contact you. But also think about the kind of kunoichi you want to be. With your chakra control, genjutsu and medical ninjutsu can be your specialty. The Jonin said before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. There was only one thing for Naruto to do now before going to his abode, and that was to have some godly ramen. Naruto glanced at Sasuke. See you in a week, Tem. And I hope you will have improved a little so that I don't always outshine you. It was always fun seeing Sasuke twitch with jealousy. The Uchiha glared at him. I was the one who provided an opening for the defeat of our opponents. Naruto shrugged. But I was the one who was flashy. We worked together. Naruto smiled. That we did. At least we are able to together. See you around, Tem. He waved his right hand, walking away. Sakura didn't even see how Sasuke departed. She was just left alone, wondering where he disappeared off to. Hokage office. Maybe if things were different, Hiruzen wouldn't have cared to intervene with his team by going as far as to remove Sakura from it. The Sandaime used to shy away from taking some hard-line decisions. Something Danzo had often called naivety. He smiled, to think he'd once been approached by that man to kill Konoha's Hokage. More shocking was the fact that the man who committed treason was still very much alive. He wasn't doing as he pleased, but still alive. When Naruto went missing, the third had worn a mask Kakashi had never seen before. Ruthless. Cunning. He had always been, but never ruthless. In those days, he had shown no mercy to anyone who may have had a hand in Naruto's disappearance. But they were here, and he had to convince the man to keep hold of his plans to remove Sakura. Kakashi needed his team to stay intact. There was no predicting how the new teammate would adapt to the team or if the team would have to adapt to him or her. Who'd even be put on the team to compare with Naruto and Sasuke? Very few could match those two. Releasing a long breath, Kakashi knocked at the door of the Sandame's office. Come in. The warm smile of an elderly man who cared deeply for his shinobi welcomed him. Serving under Hiruzen was nothing to regret about. You knew the man cared for you. It hardly mattered nonetheless. They were shinobi. They were subordinates of the Hokage and insubordination was not tolerated. Hokage-sama. Kakashi greeted. Kakashi. Hiruzen smiled warmly. I wish you'd come back with your students. I do like seeing them when they return from a mission. Especially one as important as this. I thought it was best to allow them to get some rest. Though knowing Naruto and Sasuke, there was unlikely to be any rest. Those two would only rest when incapacitated. They do spend a lot of time away. With the number of missions they have put they've genin for 3 years. Well, they are no longer fresh from the academy. Indeed. But I still worry. Naruto. Hiruzen sighed. He was not as close to Naruto as he would like. Their relationship hadn't taken a knock after Orochimaru happened. Naruto was just never willing to talk into detail about it. But since some heartbreaking discoveries, Naruto no longer looked at him as his Gigi. He no longer just wandered into his office to complain or try to drag him out for ramen. It was usually just work and nothing personal. Naruto was disappointed with me knowing that I knew why he was hated but kept it from him. For whatever reason he deemed rational, Hiruzen had done what he did. It was stupid. And he couldn't even try to justify his own actions. But there has never been that talk with Naruto. They just brushed past it. But it was never about the details. Maybe Naruto thought he'd deceive him again. It was a tragedy but a fruit of his stupid choice and he had to live with it. Well, not surprising but he doesn't seem to hold grudges, against the villagers at least. And even with Sakura, she was rude. But he was still going to chat with her tomorrow as if nothing had happened. We should be thankful for that. Konoha has not done him any justice. If he were anyone, he'd hold a grudge against everything that has been done to him. The sad part about it would be that it would be rational to do so. It was just that hatred never led to anything peaceful. It was always pain and suffering. And to Orochimaru. There is no doubt that he hates him more than anything, Kakashi added. Yes. That is a problem. And after reading your report about your encounter with him, it makes it more pressing of an issue. Problematic, but that was why he had to get rid of Orochimaru. He was going to come back for Naruto. He had already caused enough pain and suffering in the elemental nations. He expressed particular interest in Sasuke as well. He just didn't show it outwardly. I think Sasuke may have been his target. Hiruzen leaned back to his chair and thought deeply. When we raided Orochimaru's hideouts, we came across some valuable documents. He developed a jutsu that allows him to take over someone's body. It is perhaps his answer to immortality. In this way, he can never die. We don't know the full aspects of this jutsu, but he has always been interested in the Sharingan. Obsessed. May be right. Jiraiya has also told me that he tried it with Itachi but failed when he was still with the Akatsuki. It is most likely the reason he left the organization. So, he could be after Sasuke as well. Yes. Hiruzen smiled. We will have to be careful from now on. Naruto and Sasuke are valuable to Konoha. Kakashi nodded. Naruto was using Mokuton more frequently. It may have something to do with Orochimaru. But his usage surprised me. It is at a higher level than that of Yamato. Hiruzen kept his smile. He wasn't surprised about this. Naruto had even said that he didn't use some jutsu because they were not perfect. He has been training since we found him. And diligently so. How strong do you suppose he is? I cannot tell. Naruto hides some of his power. I assume this is so to manage Sasuke. If Sasuke realized the gap was too big, there is no telling what he would do. The Sandame Hokage sighed at this. You need to get his emotions in order. But how glad he was that Naruto was growing stronger. Yamato was a user but not in the same scale of the Shodai Hokage. In fact, the man did average things. But Naruto had the potential to reach the heights of the first. He had the massive chakra outlay to learn jutsu that Yamato couldn't learn. He was still young with the drive and desire. It is going to be difficult. Only if you gave it time. You don't try hard enough. The third replied in a stern tone. What of your other student? I recall saying this could be her last mission with Team 7. Sakura doesn't take being a kunoichi seriously. She relies too much on her teammates. She is smart and can learn, but it is not her focus. None of her teammates would be cry if she was removed from the team. They are not close. Hiruzen replied with a raised brow. Sasuke. He could understand but not with Naruto. They are. Kakashi paused, trying to think of what to say next. He did believe that the third trusted his judgment, hence he was saying bad things about Sakura, no matter how true they were, despite what he was going to request. But both are reasonable. By that you mean both thought of the situation rationally. Yes. Coldly so. Kakashi said. I would still like to keep Sakura in the team. It is my fault for not training her. I'm lucky that Naruto and Sasuke have ambitions. They don't need me to tell them to train. And they are mature enough. I should have been helping Sakura, but instead, I just watched and ensured she stayed afloat rather than teaching her how to swim. It is good that you have realized your own negligence. The third said flatly. Let us hope she improves. Who did you have in mind to replace her? Hiruzen shook his head. I had a feeling you'd work things out. It is not just for Sakura, but for you as well. You hesitate to teach your students the necessary skills because you think there is no need as we are not at war and you want them to live normal lives. Good deeds. But it is misplaced and quite frankly dangerous. Naruto cannot live a normal life. His life has never been normal. He is a Jinchuriki. Sasuke had his entire clan wiped out by his elder brother. Now, in that situation, what normal life do you want them to live? You saw hardships, Kakashi. But they have also seen their hardships as well. And neglecting to give them the tools to face their futures only places risks in their lives. We might be at peace, but know that this is the shinobi world, anything can happen. I understand, Hokage-sama. This is only temporary. What? But you said you didn't have anyone in mind to replace her. Not now. Not tomorrow. But both Naruto and Sasuke are growing. Even if she does improve, she cannot match those two. If they are sent for dangerous missions, she'll be out of her breath. It was my fault for putting her there. Regardless, I will start looking for someone who can work out with them. There is no one currently, but I will think of something. Unless she can serve as support. A team does need that. Indeed. It was always a requirement that when teams were sent out for risky missions, someone with knowledge to basic medical ninjutsu was in the team. But we have lost that. Nobody is taught medical ninjutsu. There were times Naruto wished he was ignorant. Just so he could walk in the streets with a free spirit, not feeling like he carried the entire village on his shoulder. Sometimes, it did feel like the Biju within him was dragging him, forcing him to crawl along the streets. It wasn't that he had done something wrong that he could beg for them to forgive him. There was no need, and he wouldn't apologize to anyone. But he did want them to like him. Sometimes, it was just so hard that he couldn't even take a stroll. He could just hop through the rooftops, as he was doing now. Avoidance sometimes worked wonders. What you didn't see didn't hurt you. It didn't take long for Naruto to reach his beloved street. Ikaraku Ramen was calling him. From where he stood, he could breathe the fresh aroma of those noodles. His stomach growled. He quickly slapped it, but it just seemed to get the energy to protest farther. He shook his head and jumped from the roof. He landed on the busy street like a leaf falling off a tree. He smiled. He truly was improving. It was a matter of time before he became a force to be reckoned with. Someone bumped into him while he entertained his hopes. Naruto glanced at the man. A civilian. Whether it was intentional or not was a difficult question to answer. The man hadn't even bothered sparring him glance. He just went his way. Naruto's lips turned upside down as he thought, I don't exist, huh? He shook his head and took 6 steps before settling on a stool. This place welcomed him. It was always fascinating just how he felt right at home while here. Even other customers who turned away because they saw him now sat with him. Those who used to just ignore him now bothered to nod and then went on to devour their meals. There was no place like Ikaraku Ramen. The atmosphere here gave him hope that things could change for the better. Naruto, my boy, Tsuki greeted him with a warm smile. Old man, Naruto flashed a smile. 2 of my favorite. He went right at it. We don't see you that often these days. Missions. Our team does a lot of missions outside the village. He grinned. This one was a special one. Can you believe it? I'm going to be a movie star. Chuki chuckled lightly. Good for you. But how did you manage that? Being at the right place at the right time. Naruto shrugged. He did have an important role in the movie. But since it was a movie, most people wouldn't dare think it was reality. Their lives had been on the line when they were being filmed and nothing was according to script. Lucky you. I'll prepare your order. Naruto nodded. Konoha could deny what it wants to deny, but they would not stop Naruto Uzumaki from being famous. Since their beloved Sasuke was in the movie and Kakashi, they would no doubt be going after it when it reaches the cinema. After a couple of moments, Chuki returned with his order. Naruto said his prayers and then dug in. The old man didn't go but kept staring up at him. Something wrong. Chuki shook his head. I've just been hearing rumors about you. Everything good, I hope. Of course. Chuki smiled. It makes me proud that you have not given up, Naruto. If you keep this up, you will become the talk of this village in no time. Words of hope. But Naruto would nonetheless not forget that this cruel life could be sadistic at times. It could throw hope to whoever cared to catch, and then puff you up with signs of wonders. Just when you were thinking it was going to happen, it would remind you of its true nature and crush that hope to pieces, leaving not a shred of its existence behind. After finishing his meal, Naruto thanked the old man and embraced the cold atmosphere of the streets. He left with a bright smile. It wasn't so bad. Not like before. Pathetic. The hateful voice of the Kyuubi almost made him jump. Naruto wasn't used to the Biju talking to him. While in the hands of Orochimaru, the beast had settled for merely working hard to heal him. It had made it clear to him, if he died, it would also die. Maybe what was more pathetic was its cries to give it his body while he was at Orochimaru's mercy. The Biju had told him, if he gave it control, it would destroy Orochimaru and then move on to Konoha. He had considered it, but Naruto had decided against it. Maybe if Konoha hadn't found him when it did, he would have already given up. Orochimaru hadn't as much focused on trying to turn him, but he was most focused on trying to prove his hypothesis with the perfect subject for experiments. Naruto quickly shook his head. He was going to have nightmares now. Those treacherously painful days where he inwardly cried for help but it did not come. Orochimaru had been gleefully cutting him up, just to test his healing powers. He had commended on the Uzumaki gene, saying it was most superior compared the Senju in terms of its life force and superior chakra. Are you growing bored these days that you must taunt me like this, Kyuubi? There is nothing better. Who must I speak to if not my warden? The Biju grinned. While this all satisfyingly, I must admit I'm impressed that you have yet to break. Your repressed memories with Orochimaru nearly showed themselves while at the mission, but you didn't show a hint of it. Naruto's smile slipped. When you have lived your life hiding your emotions, wearing a mask becomes easy. I wonder how long you can hold on. You don't trust anyone to tell your secrets. Not even the Sandaime Hokage. You're all alone in this world. The only person you can trust is that Uchiha brat, but he isn't the one you can talk to. How sweet it is to be Naruto. Just break soon and I will be ready to pounce. Orochimaru may have been applying the suppression seal to keep him from influencing Naruto, but the seal did weaken since he was constantly pushing out his chakra. The more Naruto was exposed to the shinobi world, the likely it was that he was going to end up using Hick chakra, and Kurama would not waste the time to pounce. For now, he could wait. Unfortunately for you, there will be no mental breakdowns. I am made of hard stuff. I have not survived this hell just to wickedly break down like a little girl. Naruto said firmly. You just stay there rent-free. And when I need you, I will call for your chakra. Powerful chakra. Naruto had tasted it. He had let loose in one of Orochimaru's hideouts after all. Orochimaru hadn't known he could break free from bounds, but the Sannin had quickly held him down by suppressing the Kyuubi's chakra. In cases of need, there was one route to go, and that was using his ace, the vile chakra that would make Konoha tremble if he were to release it. With Jiraiya circling around, he was sure he was going to be forced to work on controlling it. When he arrived at his place, it was all dusty. It was like he'd been gone for years. He sighed. Crappy places. He needed to live at a better place. He was getting paid better, so he could afford to live at a better place. But he was never going to get rid of this apartment. It was held much sentimental value. After all, this had become his safe zone. The last person Kurenai expected to see at her doorstep was Naruto. As far as she was concerned, he was still outside the village on a mission. When she opened her door and found him smiling, she had stood still, momentarily frozen. How did he know where she lived? She looked across the hall, just to see if there was anyone else looking. Once she was satisfied, she glanced back at Naruto. He now had a raised eyebrow. What? You are not supposed to be having your students at your place. Kurenai shook her head. She couldn't say things were different because he was Naruto. You're the last person I expected to see. She said. What are you doing here? Looking for a better place to stay. My apartment is old on the outside. There are many memories and I want to think of something new. Naruto explained lightly. Bad timing. Kurenai blinked. She was standing by the entrance, hands on the door as if she didn't want him to come inside. She shook her head. She opened the door and pushed to the side. Come in. Naruto shook his head. I'll want to stay a little longer. But I found this place by chance. And thought I'd check up on you to see when we can begin with our training sessions. You'll be free. Yes. Come see me tomorrow after 3 p.m. at my training ground. We will see then. I still have my other students to think about. Of course. Kurenai stared at Naruto for a moment. There were many thoughts that just bundled up in her head. With everything the Sandaime has said, it made her want to treat this delicately. You sure you don't want to come in? Oh, I want to come in, but I have other things I need to do. Like I said, I was just passing by. Maybe someday, he said, waving his right hand before turning away from her. Following day. No wonder I felt itchy. Naruto said as soon as he opened his door. Ino was standing there, hands around her waist with a look of impatience. As if she'd been standing there for a couple of hours. Ha ha ha. Ino fake laughed and then stared. Are you going to let me in? Naruto returned the stare. He got along quite nicely with the Yamanaka. He could even go as far as to paint a picture of friendship. Like Shikamaru, Ino expressed understanding. He had already judged her motives. But still, it didn't explain she'd just come to his place like this. For what purpose? He smiled slyly. I didn't think our relationship was like that. Ino rolled her eyes, now folding her hands across her chest. In your dreams, Uzumaki. She replied in a snap. Are you really not going to let me come in? Not unless you state your intentions. I'm being kind here. I could just decide to push you aside. I considered that, Naruto replied in thought. He then released a short breath and opened the door wide. Come on in, Ino-chan. He had his held out, a wide grin on his lips. Ew. That just made me feel a chill down my spine. Now that was uncalled for. Naruto closed the door behind him and stared at Ino's back with an expressionless look. It only lasted for a couple of seconds. You have a decent place, Uzumaki. I expected a mess for someone who lives alone. Well, I don't have anyone to do it for me. Naruto said as he stepped into the kitchen. His kitchen table was littered with scrolls. Ino was staring at them with curiosity. A questioning girl that has always liked digging into personal spaces of others. It didn't help that her father worked in intelligence gathering. Maybe she should have chosen that route instead of trying out the famed Ino-Shika-cho formation. Maybe it wasn't too late. She still had time. Being a kunoichi didn't seem like it was on the high list of her agenda. You know, if you'd spent this kind of effort while at the academy, you'd have been one of the famous students. Naruto scoffed and responded in a sharp tone. Academy is useless. It didn't even help that some academy teachers were actively trying to sabotage me. The only teacher was good to me was Iruka. If I had been stupid enough without him, I'd have failed. Bitterly, he could thank Orochimaru for kidnapping him and subjecting him to some unspeakable things. It had taught him good lessons. He'd become more alert and the discovery had forced the Sandaime to give him some personal lessons while also providing him with some scrolls and books to help him learn. If not for that jolt, he would have most likely remained stupid and ignorant, even of the fact of the Kyuubi within him. Naruto's sharp tone caught Ino off guard. She stared at him for a moment and then tentatively sat down. Sucks being you, she replied, in a quiet tone. Smiling sadly, she added. Well, at least you have a friend in me. Really, I always thought you came closer just because you were curious. Shikamaru may have left some hints. And Sakura may have said some unflattering slander that you must have found difficult to reconcile, and so you thought to get closer to satisfy yourself. I won't deny that. Ino smiled. She is better now, you know. Before, she never spoke anything good about you. Now, she even admits that you even save her life. Miracles happen, I suppose. Naruto said, folding his scrolls. Ino sighed. You don't have to be like that, you know. Naruto looked at her with a raised brow. I'm a little busy, as you can see. And I have to meet Kurenai-sensei for my first lesson. Someone is in a cranky mood. Ino paused, staring. She then looked away and staring at the floor with nervousness gripping her tightly. I won't deny that I became close because I was curious. Besides, we have known each other for a long time, haven't we? You were the kid that saved Sakura from being bullied. She may act ignorant to it, but that is the truth. You've always been a delight. Despite my crush, being around you is a lot more comfortable than being around Sasuke. With him, you know he is never truly looking at you but past you. Besides, he is always brooding. You are the better person. Wish I had a recorder to keep a record of those words. I'm being serious here. Naruto laughed and then waved his right hand in a dismissive manner. I know. So, now that you're done with the prelude, what is the main subject? Ino stared back. Naruto wasn't an easy person to deal with. You think you had him figured out, but Ino couldn't really tell his thoughts. He smiled and laughed, but sometimes she wondered if he truly was smiling. He spoke a lot. And yet, there were many things he did not say. Perhaps that was what made him a curious subject to her. On the bonus side of things, he was easy to get along with. And it did always make Sakura mad that she was able to get along with the blonde. You host the QB. More or less, she blurted out. But the reaction surprised her. Could she even call it a reaction? Nothing in his face had changed. There was just a slightly raised eyebrow. I suppose it makes sense that you're the first person to talk to me about this. He replied with a sigh. Shikamaru. He may have hinted when we were talking about you. How'd that even come? I don't know. Maybe over that I get along with you. I see. Naruto paused, now staring at his scrolls. Let me pack up these things and we can walk out. I have to meet Kurenai-sensei. Don't want to be late. Rather be early. He smiled. Besides, I don't want to miss Kiba. His reactions are always amusing. Ino didn't respond but just watched him wrap the scrolls. But she knew, he wasn't going to meet Kurenai now. The reason they were going to take a walk was because of her statement. He hadn't even said anything about it. Once he was done, he motioned for her to follow him. They stepped out of the apartment and then went to the crowded streets. The atmosphere was always unusual when it came to walking with Naruto. The stairs. She had noticed. And Naruto's flamboyance regarding them. Sometimes when you live in a bubble, such things you cannot even see. It is surprising that despite being my teammate, Sakura does not know yet. She is even ignorant of what surrounds us as we walk along the streets. Admittedly, it is better now. Before, even a blind person would see it. That bad, huh? Ino said with emotion. I can imagine being in that situation. You don't have to. But like I said, things are different now. It is a little more subtle. But you'd still expect Sakura to notice such things. You hardly along the streets with her. Unnecessary to subject myself to her presence when home. But you're fine with Sasuke. Naruto shrugged. You know when Sasuke is around, her eyes become narrow. She doesn't look at anything else. And aren't you supposed to be the one to tell? Naruto shrugged. There is nothing really to tell. Are you afraid people will hate you? Naruto glanced at the girl. Who have you been speaking to? This is rather unusual. I may have overheard Kurenai and Asuma-sensei talking about you. Ino replied with a sheepish smile. That sounds like you. Naruto smiled while shaking his head. Not at all. It is just something I would rather not talk about. Hated. I'm already hated. It doesn't change much. That isn't very optimistic. But I don't think anyone will hate you. We went to the academy together. We all know you. She paused, smiling a little sadly. Certain things make sense. But aside from Choji, Shika and of course, Sakura, there is no other person I can really call a friend who I could hang out with. I don't want that to change. You came to me just to talk about that. I wanted to confirm about that, Ino replied. Besides, Sakura was saying you use the Shodai Hokage's jutsu. Which is unbelievable. Why did you not tell me about this? I didn't know I should tell things. Well, this other night. I don't know. I was dreaming right, and when I don't want to hear. Ino shouted. But it's really good. I know where you were going with that. Be serious, okay. I suppose I must also tell you that I'm going to be a movie star. Sakura mentioned that in passing. Ino said with nonchalance. How come you use a rare bloodline like that? We didn't even know about it. Naruto smiled. Well, maybe now you'll believe me when I say I'm going to be Hokage. Get liked first. Ino shot at Naruto. You just ignored my question. What question, Ino-chan? Naruto had a smile, sly look on his face. Did I mention that I missed you very much while away? It was kind of difficult not having someone who likes you when you get to see Sakura throwing all her love to Sasuke. Ino folded her hands across her chest. Who said I like you? Naruto put a hand on his mouth, wearing a shocked look. I was wrong about you. Actually, stop following me if you don't like me. He then paused, removing his hand from his mouth. A sly smile settled once more. Of course, you were thinking about a different like. I was talking about liking me as a person. What were you thinking about, Ino-chan? He finished in a slow tone, purposefully, his eyes firmly on the blonde. Ino flushed slightly and then shot him a glare. I'm just going to walk away from you. Naruto waved his right hand. Bye-bye. I'm not going to come around you again. Don't say things like that when you just can't resist me. I must truly discover this secret I hold if I was able to make you like me when you had been so infatuated with Konoha's prince. Doesn't take much for anyone to like someone over Sasuke-kun. Ino scoffed. He is handsome. But whoever gets around him and thinks clearly will realize just what kind of a person he is. Naruto laughed. What are you saying about Sakura, then? There is no hope for her. For Kurenai, this was a unique situation. Not long since being baptized into the sensei bath, she was now facing perhaps the most infamous person in the village. To say this was a challenge for any sensei would be an understatement. This was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Maybe it wouldn't be if she looked past that. He was just a child. That much she knew and understood. She wondered though, how would the village even react if it found out about this? She shook her head. Did it matter if they know about this? She was doing this because Naruto had asked and she wanted to pass on her skills on someone else. Maybe she was overthinking things. She releases a long breath. Standing over Naruto was who was sitting under the shade of a tree, hands clapped together and his legs folded. He appeared to be meditating. When those closed eyes flashed open, the clear ocean blue watched her with a bit of iciness that made her curious. Meditating? She asked the obvious. Yes. Naruto nodded. It helps calm my chakra and get a feel of it. It isn't easy trying to gain the precise control needed. I realized some time ago that without proper control I wasted too much chakra. And now with Genjutsu, more is required. I'm told you also have large amounts of chakra reserves. Just how much was something that had left her mouth agape. He was just a kid. A Jinchuriki, but to have as much chakra as Kakashi and the Sandaime clan the blonde had was just ridiculous. Naruto smiled. The blessing of being Uzumaki and a Jinchuriki. It was almost an unfair combination. Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Naruto even knew about the Uzumaki. Kurenai didn't know much either. It was all just history about the once great clan. Well, the Sandaime did warn her to be watchful of what Naruto says and to watch over him after what happened with Orochimaru. A tragedy that he apparently was loath to discuss. She wasn't going to start working the angles about it. She had a job and that was one he requested. If he spoke, then she would not deny him. She settled down across him and then spoke. You said you didn't want to learn how to use it in that way. I honestly don't know how to go about this. Naruto shook his head. Learning all shinobi arts isn't a bad thing. If I can learn genjutsu, I can do so. I primarily use ninjutsu when I fight. But as it has been made obvious to me, genjutsu is also effective. You don't know a single genjutsu. Naruto shook his head. But I know there are different ways in which genjutsu can be used. There is your way. The other with dujutsu like the Sharingan. And there are sound-based genjutsu. I have not found any but I've heard there are. I'll teach you a simple genjutsu and then we can take it from there. I have no problem with that. However, I want to know the basic structure of genjutsu. On me and on the target. What does to the target and what happens to the chakra flow when I dispel the illusion? Is it just the senses that if affects or as the central nerves? Is that your take when you learn ninjutsu? Naruto smiled. It is something the Sandaime Hokage taught me. I was struggling to work out any Mokuton jutsu in ways that worked out. So, he told me that I have to be able to understand the nature of the jutsu I was using from its structure. He is honestly a genius as he has claimed. The way he understands jutsu and the way he is able to break it down is just amazing. You were trained by the third. No. He just taught me a few things when I was growing frustrated with my lack of progress. Maybe because his frustrations led to a leak of the Kyuubi's chakra. But genuinely, the old man just cared for him and did want to see him progress in his training. Kurenai accepted Naruto's response and then stood up. Let us start. Sakura glanced at Naruto and then at Sasuke, who was busy glaring at Naruto. The blonde was doing his utmost best to ignore him. A week ago, she would have been yelling at him about it. But she now understood she couldn't get in between the relationship between her teammates. Their bond was much greater than she liked to admit. In fact, even those thoughts repulsed her. She was contemptuous to this relationship that just seemed far beyond her no matter how much she struggled to try to claim it. She was going to get better nonetheless. She has no other option. Anything less and she would be kicked out from the team. A heartbreaking scenario that gave her some nightmares. The part of her that she kept closed on a closet wanted nothing more than to blame Kakashi for her near dismissal from the team. He was the one in charge. She was a reflection of his lessons. Do I owe you something? Sakura blinked, feeling that Naruto was actually speaking to her. She'd been staring, she thought mildly. Sasuke was still glaring. She wondered if it was right to respond. After a moment, she shook her head and then answered. No. She frowned deeply. What have you been busy with? I haven't seen you over the past week. Busy. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You wanted to see me. Why do you sound surprised? Well, since you are taking things a bit seriously, I'd imagined that you'd also take an extra step with Sasuke. I mean going after him to help you train. Who knows? You could have bonded. Why hadn't she thought of that? Sakura quickly crushed her thoughts when Naruto's amused look threatened to turn into a laugh. Very funny. She glared. Naruto shrugged. Thought so. He paused, looking at her keenly. You making any improvements? I figure out vacation is going to end very soon. Vacation. Sakura rolled her eyes. I'm still working with Kakashi-sensei on the best way to train. She paused trying to gather her thoughts. Say, Naruto, would you have fought for me if I was to be taken out of the team? Naruto smiled. In such cases, there was one right answer. Lies, of course. But sometimes they worked wonders to butter up someone. Still, Naruto disliked feeding Sakura lies. She would not grow. Perhaps he was at times brutally honest with her. Would he have fought for her? A waste of time. Irrational even. There was nothing to gain. Sakura was not his best friend. She had attitude problems and could not appreciate his worth. That is an interesting question. He glanced up at Sasuke. What would we have done, Sasuke? Don't drag me into it. Aren't you her teammate as well? Sasuke glared down at Naruto. He wasn't too mad not to notice what the blonde was doing. He would not fall for it. Not this time. Naruto didn't want to answer. He wanted him to give an answer knowing that he wasn't going to lie. But in this case, anything brutal from him might kill the girl's spirits and she might even become more of a burden. Or maybe not. She could be more motivated to prove them wrong. In any case, whatever happens, Naruto wouldn't complain. And it wouldn't have been his fault. Now, that isn't a nice look to a teammate, Sasu-chan. Sasuke didn't reply. Naruto faced Sakura. Tell me, for what reason would I fight for you? We are teammates. Naruto stared at her and then laughed. Stop joking, Sakura. When have you ever treated me like a teammate? Besides, what good are you in a team? Kakashi appeared in a puff of smoke to stop any farther talk. I see you are all here, the Jonin said with an eye smile. We going back to missions? Kakashi shook his head. An invite came from Iwagakure for participating in the Chunin exams. Konoha has intentions to send teams to the nation. But nobody is forced to go unless it is a mission. If you participate and do well, you can be promoted to Chunin. If you are interested, we can go there. Predictably, Naruto was the first to respond. And Sasuke supported his motion. There is no need to even ask. Sensei, I think we are ready to become Chunin. Maybe we will do better missions. The glaring question was Sakura. But Naruto wasn't going to say a damn word about it. Nothing was going to ruin this chance. It would be good to test ourselves against others from other villages. Sasuke failed to contain his grin. Sakura was going to take whatever her teammates decided. She basically followed the direction of the wind in such situations. Kakashi sighed with disappointment. Not at her but himself for allowing this to continue. It wasn't like he didn't see anything. He just thought she would grow on her own, like her teammates. But there was nothing motivating her. I thought you'd say this. We have a couple of days to prepare. Well, I'm always ready. Naruto said as he stood up. I should hope you take this seriously. It would be laughable if I come back with a promotion and you return with failure. Sasuke responded by jumping from the tree. He landed on front of the blonde, a hard glare on his eyes. Naruto could feel the hot breath from the Uchiha. The Sharingan flashed for a second and Naruto smiled. Oh dear, someone is very serious. I suppose it is on. May the better shinobi win, Sasu-chan. Better shinobi. Sasuke scoffed. I've always been the better shinobi. Whatever strokes our pride. Naruto glanced at Kakashi through the corner of his eyes. In these days, you're going to help us prepare, right? If so, must we prepare weapons for training? Or will we be focused on something specific? Kakashi shook his head. We will cover all the basics. I want you to be fully prepared. The exams are a showcase for future generation talent. We can only afford to represent Konoha well. I see. Naruto responded. We start tomorrow then. Yes. Be here by 8 a.m. I'll be around by 6, Naruto replied as he started to walk away. But Kakashi stopped him. The Jonin requested to speak to him privately. Naruto nodded and the Jonin took him up to the Hokage monument. The air was fresh as always. It was always a pleasant feeling, overlooking the tiny people walking along the village streets. Naruto took in the air for a couple of moments before glancing at the Jonin standing on his right side. You already know there is a problem with Orochimaru. The village has resolved it wants to get rid of him. He has shown interest in both you and Sasuke. There is no doubt that he might try to take you again. One of the reasons the village has decided he needs to be dealt with. Kakashi spoke in a hardened tone. They were talking about Orochimaru. So, it was understandable that the Jonin could speak about getting rid of him so simply as if it would be like batting a fly. So if we leave for the mission, there are chances he might make a move. Yes. Naruto disliked this kind of living. Konoha was safe but he couldn't be confined in this place. He would go insane if that happened. So what happens now? You just have to know that anything can happen. We will have a squad of Anbu tailing us just in case. Jiraiya-sama will also be on standby. Naruto smiled. Bait. Something like that. Well, if it gets Orochimaru crippled, I can't complain. Naruto responded in a quiet tone. One more thing. Kakashi said. Iwa must not know you are a Jinchuriki. A Jinchuriki who uses Mokuton will unnerve many people and create problems. They'll be more worried if I do too well without revealing the power and they later learn I'm a Jinchuriki. And I intend to decimate all my opponents. He paused. Is Sakura going? She isn't capable to chase after promotion. She is. But I could get someone else if you don't want her. She isn't the least ready. People die in the Chunin exams. Taking her with you means taking a burden. Naruto smiled. Well, better. If we leave her behind, she is never coming back into the team. But if we take her with us, it will be brutal. She will suffer. There is no better teacher than experience. We've always shielded her. It will be best if we let her suffer a little. Get her to that situation where she is at a corner and neither Sasuke or I are there to save her. Once she experiences this, I tell you, she will repent. If not, prepare a report to send her back to the academy. A collapsed building. Destroyed with just debris flying before her. Tsunade released a long breath and then stared down at the two shinobi lying, dead before her. They'd suddenly attacked, setting off an explosion that would have been dangerous had she been completely out of it. If they had been smart enough, they could have waited. For the moment she could do nothing but just roll over with her brain intoxicated by alcohol, depending on Shizune for security. The shinobi were just simple rogue things. But more danger was about to come. If Hiruzen was serious, he would send his shinobi. Or maybe even Jiraiya. But the fact that she was in this situation just meant that she was already in the bingo book. A rogue shinobi, she'd been marked. It was ridiculous. Something had happened to her sensei. Old age hadn't made him take the necessary decisions. Timid and naive. That was what his old age brought out in him. Not this. More shinobi are going to show up. Shizune said. Undeniably. Nobody was going to miss out on the millions on her head. Even when they knew she was powerful, they'd not stop taking chances. We will have to be always on the lookout. Can't sleep with both eyes opened. Konoha doesn't have to do anything. We are going to be hunted wherever we go. What do we do? What do you think? Tsunade snapped, unintentionally. It was just frustrating that she had to be forced into this situation. Boom. What now? It was a smoke bomb. Shizune was on alert as the smoke filled through her, blinding her. There was no time to do anything. Firm hands grabbed her and pulled her from the smoke. Tsunade-sama. Tsunade twisted around. Atop of a building, masked men were holding Shizune hostage. Their masks. She recognized them. You're Anbu from Konoha. What do you want? Shizune has been ordered back to Konoha by the Hokage. We are to return with her immediately. The Sandaime Hokage expresses hope that you'll also return home, soon. If not, Hunter Nin will be activated. As if I'm afraid of Hunter Nin. You're far too powerful for Hunter Nin. Bounty hunters won't care though. They just want money. For Konoha Hunter Nin, the mission won't be to fight you head on. But just to make you uncomfortable. Just when you attempt to sleep, they might strike. Or when you're busy fighting other who give you a challenge, they might strike. The Sandaime hopes you stay sober, Tsunade-sama. And just like that, the Anbu vanished along with Tsunade. Damn it. Tsunade shouted angrily, stomping on the ground. No matter how you looked at it, this was just devious. Having Jiraiya come at her seemed like it would be the last option. But for now, that damn old man seemed content to make her uncomfortable enough to return to Konoha on her own without being dragged kicking and screaming. She hated this. After everything she has done for the Leaf, this was how her sensei was going to thank her. In and out. Return and then depart. It was a never-ending circle for Naruto. The team never stayed too long in the village. Ever since they started hopping through the trees outside of Konoha, they've often had those assignments. A normal thing. The difference with the early days of their shinobi careers was remarkable. There was none of this. They only saw others return while they chased after cats or cut weed for overbearing old people with short fuses. This departure was different. It wasn't often Naruto felt giddy. This wasn't a mission. They were going to enter a competition. There was nothing better than competition. As long as it wasn't with someone with a superiority complex and corruptive jealousy like Sasuke, then competition was a good thing. Chunin exams. Naruto had no desire to return as a failure. It would be a stain on his forehead. He was going to show the hidden stone that there was a shinobi called Naruto Uzumaki. Of course, earning admirers came second. He wanted to secure his position and gain some more battle experience. It would be curious to see just how other genin were like in other villages. Kakashi would say comparing him and Sasuke to other genin wasn't fair. But everyone had their own circumstances. Wow, it was Sakura who started as Naruto arrived at the gates. You're practically walking on air. She was talking to him like this normal. Maybe things were a little dysfunctional in this team. Being negative now wouldn't do them any favors. And so, Naruto smiled as he replied. It was intentional. I'm excited. Never seen you so happy. It was a strange thing. Sakura had seen Naruto laughing, and it was usually at the expense of other people. Sometimes he was cracking so hard you could see he was just holding himself from rolling on the ground. There was no laughter this time, but the air around him was just different. I have every reason to be happy. This is merely taking a step closer toward my grand dream of becoming Hokage. He really did say things like that without skipping a beat. Sakura would have scoffed, retorting that the dream was impossible for him. But she held herself. She needed to be a better teammate. She didn't want Naruto to look at her coldly. For Sasuke to turn on her. She was hanging by a wire. She had to consider her words. You really want to become Hokage? Of course. You do know that the Hokage is usually the most powerful shinobi. It is the highest position in the village and not everyone gets that position. Well, duh. Oh, awkwardly, she said, good luck with that. Everyone turned to face her. Even Kakashi looked at her with surprise. Naruto just looked so shocked, you'd think he'd just seen a ghost. Inwardly, she stuck out her tongue. Is it that shocking? Yes. All three responded. Sakura shifted uncomfortably. She hasn't always been the best teammate. And the rebuke from Sasuke had hit her hard. It had felt like a stab to the chest. Not to mention, Naruto had told her right to her face that he wouldn't fight for her to remain in the team because she was useless. It really hurt her. And it was coming from Naruto. Worse, Sasuke had kept his silence when asked. She was willing to take his word, but Sakura was not blind to the truth. Sasuke had the same thought as Naruto. Much as she was loath to stomach it, the two had similar thoughts at times. She just favored Sasuke because she loved him. It didn't make Naruto's contribution to the team any less. Even if she often tried to diminish it in an attempt to make Sasuke happy. Not that it has ever earned her anything good. It always just seemed to earn her a look of annoyance. It was all bitter to swallow. The truth was difficult. No wonder people deluded themselves to believing lies. It was just better to live in your own fiction of imagination than face up to the cold reality. I have never said anything nice to him. It isn't like he is an idiot or anything. Whether she genuinely believed that he could become Hokage was something she would keep to herself. Sensei, this isn't a dream, is it? Want me to gut you? You'll know it's a dream or not. Naruto faced Sasuke and then held up his hands, smiling innocently. If I'm seeing you and my heart isn't racing, then it isn't a dream. In all my dreams, if I see you, you're always a hateful monster. Ironic. Sasuke responded, a smirk on his lips. Naruto mouthed, shocked. Sensei, we should reconsider this. We can't be going with this amount of bad luck. Naruto knew Sasuke was talking about the Biju sealed within him. He just never thought he'd say something that would leave him open for a counter, especially by someone flat as Sasuke. I think we should. I also did come across a black cat, Kakashi said absent-mindedly. This is a team effort. If Naruto says we should not, then we can't go. Everyone must agree. You're saying that, but I don't really think this team has a choice. Sasuke said, staring at their sensei. What is that supposed to mean? Kakashi asked. We are the only ones being sent to Iwagakure. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be the case. There should be other teams being sent with us. But only this team is being sent. Why? Naruto asked, looking ahead at the trees that welcomed them to the dense forest that surrounded the leaf. You're thinking this too much. You have a choice, said Kakashi with a careless shrug. Naruto is right. For us, this may be a mission. We're probably being sent to showcase the strength of the future generation to Iwa. Sasuke said. His eyes fell on Sakura for a moment and then back at Kakashi. Naruto and I are the best of our generation. There is Guy's team. Kakashi pointed out. They graduated ahead of us. And Neji is already at Chunin. They've been to the exams already. Naruto replied with a dismissive wave. It isn't like it is a problem. But it is truly misleading to say others would be like this. Well, that was true, Kakashi thought. But Iwa didn't know that. The objective of the Chunin exams has always been to showcase talent of future generations. You aren't going to be doing anything different. But just know, you'll be representing the Leaf Village. Everything that you'll be doing will reflect on the village. Naturally. Naruto nodded his head. He then sighed. The journey is going to be long though. And we should hurry. We are not behind on time, but you never know what we might come across. If something holds us back and we are late, we will be forced to turn back, the Jonin said in a very serious tone. Well, we can't have that, Naruto said, readying himself for a hop on the trees. Do try to keep up, he said to Sakura. Not everyone is a stamina freak like you. Naruto shrugged. Physical training can solve that. It builds endurance. Your kind of training wouldn't suit Sakura. It would be too much for her, Kakashi was quick to say. You should just join Guy and Lee. Hell no. Naruto was quick to say. I don't want to die. My training suits me best. I want my body to be able to endure tall shifts, though, I do push myself to my limits at times. All Naruto and Sasuke did was to train. They were unlike normal kids. Kakashi really shouldn't be surprised that Sakura didn't last a day with the two. A little too much. You should pause at times to rest your mind, Kakashi suggested. Sometimes your body may rest but the mind can be weary and you'll think you have issues when it is just your brain not issuing the commands. I have heard that from the Sandaime. Hence I do try to meditate as often as I do. He turned to Sasuke. The Uchiha shot Naruto a glare. He could hear Naruto saying something along the lines of meditation being impossible for him because as soon as he closed his eyes, he was only going to see Itachi. Don't even think about it. What? Naruto grinned. I was going to say your pants are falling. When the Uchiha sharpened his glare, Naruto just laughed. Just know this. If I return with a recommendation of promotion, and you don't, I'll be second in command. Which means, I'll be team leader whenever Kakashi-sensei isn't around. I'll enjoy pulling rank. Keep dreaming. Sakura didn't think it was going to change anything in the team dynamics even if Naruto's scenario played out. He was often the one person who they all could depend on when Kakashi wasn't around. It kind of pisses me off that you are talking about being Chunin and I'm not part of the conversation. And I know. Sakura glared at Naruto. If I say something, you're only going to laugh at me. I'm not that cruel, Sakura. You too can dream. You might find someone of your skill is very respected in Iowa. Very funny, Naruto. Naruto laughed. Thought so, and I appreciate your sarcasm. Everyone is in the mood. He said a bit seriously. We are going as a team, but I think when they evaluate, they check individual skill. Either way, you just have to play your part. You never know. You lack in raw power, but you more than make it up for having the brains to function. That might be ace. It is always about how you use what you have. You are smart enough to figure out how best effective your skills and knowledge can be in any situation. You just need to be calm enough to think. Naruto was of course aware that sometimes when faced with overwhelming power, strategy meant nothing. Motivation from Naruto and he sounded earnest. At least, he didn't completely hate her. Sakura smiled. Perhaps she wasn't too late. But then again, if the two became Chunin, their team were likely to be broken up. If they progressed, they would be doing solo missions, and might even end up taking teams. Teams were not permanent. There was a point of separation. That worried Sakura, but she buried those worries and focused on the positives. Thank you, she mumbled. Kakashi-sensei, are you sure she isn't an imposter? This is making me feel uncomfortable. You're going to make her return to normal, Kakashi cautioned with a smile. I find it refreshing. It is good for the team spirit. As long as it wasn't just lip service. Naruto glanced at Sakura and then looked ahead. What had changed? Sasuke telling her off. There was no need to force issues, she only had to let things flow naturally. The most important thing is being considerate about others. If you don't think I can make it to Hokage, say it. You just don't have to be ignorant and irrational in your reasoning. I tell Sasuke whatever I want. He understands why I say the things I say. He never says thank you even if I save his life, but that is fine. He is Sasuke. Sakura glanced between her teammates and then looked ahead. If you didn't know anything, you'd say Naruto often bullied Sasuke. The same about her. He was harsh and cold when he wanted to be. Was he saying it wasn't because he hated either of them? The same was with Ino. Her friend could say some of the things that came out of her mouth and Naruto would still just laugh it off. Was it the intent behind the words? Every village was unique. The buildings. The way the people lived. Perhaps it had to do with the weather conditions of all villages. Indeed, this was literally the elemental nations. The earth was truly earth. The fire country just made things a little sideways because there were no columns of flames just bursting out from the earth like hot springs. It wasn't always hot either. One could say, the Fire Nation was the most normal country out of all other nations. Iwagakure no Sato was truly different from what he'd imagined. First of all, it was massive. He'd expected the leaf to be the biggest, but Iwa was still big. But then again, as history has shown, the nation fought Konoha well enough that it was only the introduction of Konoha's yellow flash that changed the scales of war. Instead of using this new weapon to decimate Iowa, the Sandaime Hokage made the decision to seek out a truce and end the war without a winner. But the scars left by the yellow flash could never truly heal. just as the scars left by the QB seemed to worsen with each reminder. Sensei, how well do you rank Iowa in terms of power? We know there are 5 great nations. But between Kumo and Iowa, which is powerful? It is hard to tell. Kakashi replied. A war usually settled those scores. But Kumo has produced the better shinobi compared to Iowa. Past Raikage have been known for being very powerful. The Sandaime Raikage fought 10,000 men on his own. Naruto whistled. Now that is a man worthy of being hailed. I should do a study of past Kage, he said in a thoughtful tone. Are we free to wander about the village? I'd like to explore a little bit. We haven't even found accommodation yet. We should worry about that first. Sakura replied with a stare. Tired, Sakura. Unlike you, some of us are not stamina freaks. Naruto shrugged. You're repeating the same thing again, he told her with a look. You just have to be physically fit. Then again, you're not quite different from Sasuke. Even he lacks physically. Maybe you two are really a match for each other. Maybe for him there was the added benefit of being Uzumaki. But just because he was Uzumaki didn't mean he could surpass anyone. It just meant it was built in him. The likes of Lee pushed their bodies to their limits. Thus, he could admit that they possessed far more physical strength than him. But of course, all around, Naruto could outlive them since his physical qualities came with healing powers that were envied by many. Thinking of this made him hear one of Orochimaru's evil laughter. Honestly, having people stare at him with contempt was much better than being chained in a bed with drugs running loose around his body while Orochimaru ran blood samples and stuck some needles into his body. There had been worse things he saw. At any day, Naruto could choose Konoha over such a cruel world. I feel like you're picking on me. Naruto smiled and then glanced around the streets. People were moving about their business. But there were stares. It reminded Naruto that Iwa and Konoha had no relationship whatsoever. For a moment, he considered waving his hand at those who stared just to see what would happen. But he shook his head. He didn't want to earn himself enemies that would hunt him and make things difficult than they should be. Maybe. His gaze fell on Sasuke. Told you, join me. But you said you don't want to join me and pick up extra muscles as it would make you slow. There is nothing wrong with it. The bigger you are, the heavier you are and your body hits much wind pressure. I'm not becoming fat. I didn't say you were. I want fluid and swift movements to match my Sharingan. I don't want a hardened body to fight like an animal. Now, you're insulting my fighting style. You do have a way of fighting at times, Sakura pointed out. Especially when you start throwing explosive tags around. And we are going to see more of them in the exam. Or maybe not. I'll need to behave and use my skills. Naruto put a hand on his chin, thinking. After a second, he shrugged. Why do you use so much of explosive tags when you can fight? She had seen him fight Sasuke on equal ground. Loath as she was to admit it, but Naruto was a skilled shinobi. He just didn't display much of it. It is to make things quick and avoid using unnecessary chakra. Says the person who makes thousands of clones on a whim. That is nothing for me. My jutsu burns too much chakra because of lack of proper mastery. So I try to preserve my chakra when I can. You never know when you have to go big. Sakura didn't think Naruto of all people should be talking about that. Had she even seen him complaining about running out of chakra? He always had something on his tank. On my question, I misspoke. I meant to say, am I allowed to wander about? Naruto said. So, am I? Kakashi knew the question was for him. He didn't worry over something happening. But he didn't want anything happening. While he was smart enough, Naruto had his moments. There was frustrating fact Kakashi could never truly figure out the blonde. A situation that even the Sandaime wrestled with. Yes. But as Sakura said, we need to find a place to stay. I'll go speak to the Tsuchikage to announce our presence then. Why can't we go with you? Kakashi shrugged. We can go now if you want. No issues. It would be a pleasure to meet another Kage. I heard that the Tsuchikage has been around even since the times of the Shodai. Who was book smart between Naruto and Sakura? Well, it would be doing injustice to Naruto's intelligence to call him book smart. Either way, the blonde read his history books. It was something that made him no more than the average genin. His other silent student didn't care about history. The only thing he cared for was his revenge and ways to become even more powerful. As it was customary, The cage resided in biggest building within the village. Finding him wasn't difficult. The team headed there. It was busy. Because of the exams, no doubt. But there was no hassle in getting to the Tsuchikage's office. Naruto knew the Tsuchikage was small, but not quite like this. Yet, even in his old figure, you truly knew you were staring at a cage. Perhaps it came with experience. These powerful people had an aura about them. It wasn't the killing intent. He needed to have such an aura in his prime years. But for that to happen, he needed more strength. Tsuchikage-sama. Kakashi greeted the old man while taking out the invitation the Leaf received. Team 7 from Konoha reporting in for the Chunin exams. Onoki stared at the Jonin for a moment before glancing at the 3 genin with the man. The 2 males seemed like good shinobi. He looked back at Kakashi and then nodded his head. The Sandaime Hokage must have high hopes if he only sent 1 team. Onoki wasn't being sarcastic either. The man hailed as the professor wouldn't just send only 3 kids to an event such as this. The fact that their sensei was the famous Sharingan no Kakashi spoke volumes. Kakashi I smiled. Well, the others were not ready, he said. Onoki snorted. The exams start in 3 days. We have prepared a place for all competitors. The expense of course will be to your village. When we are ready to begin, you will be called. Of course. Onoki called someone and a kunoichi appeared in the office. Show them where they will be staying until the games begin. Once out of the office, not minding the kunoichi with them, Naruto spoke. And I thought the Sandaime Hokage was hold. The Sandaime Tsuchikage has been alive for a long time now. But he is still strong. Even I wouldn't want to fight him. I suppose that is the reason he remains Tsuchikage, Naruto said in thought. Once they were shown their place, Kakashi took out both Naruto and Sasuke. Sakura was dead asleep anyway. And she was not suitable to this kind of mission. Her observation skills when it came to shinobi matters were non-existent. Sasuke could be ignorant of such things at times, but Kakashi believed if tasked, he could do it. With Naruto, he didn't have to worry. For as long as he has to live, looking over his shoulder was a way of life. Naruto was always aware of where he was because of his situation, and that made him ideal for this kind of mission. Both of you, listen very carefully because I won't repeat myself and we won't ever have this conversation again. Unlike Konoha, Iwa didn't have mind readers. They just had shinobi who could torture you to either death or singing like a bird. Naruto looked toward the busy streets, an expressionless mask on his face. We must be shinobi, it seems. Sasuke glanced at the blonde and then at Kakashi. What is that supposed to mean? I forget you only show your genius when it is convenient. You should use your head more. This narrow-mindedness of yours diminishes your thinking capacity that sometimes it is difficult to tell you from Sakura. Sasuke glared at Naruto. Lately, Naruto has been sharp with his words and Kakashi just acted as if he didn't hear anything, most of the time. It annoyed him just to think he was getting lectured by this damn person. Glare at me if you must. But that is the truth, and until you change, you won't show much of that genius of yours unless we are in battle. I do not appreciate you talking to me like a child. Well, Sasuke, if you acted different, I wouldn't have to hold the stick. Kakashi clapped his hands. That's enough. He didn't have issues with Naruto telling Sasuke the hard truth. If the Uchiha was going to listen, it would be from Naruto. And besides, Naruto judged the situation well. Though, he didn't think this was the right time. Unless Naruto just wanted Sasuke to be frustrated through the whole exam. There was that deceptiveness that Naruto displayed on occasions. You must know that Konoha does not share a good relationship with this village. There has been rumors that Iwa has been building its military power over the past years to prepare just in case another war springs. Iwa also has a history of invading other villages if it deems it necessary for its security. What do we have to do? Don't ask questions. Just keep your eyes and ears open. When we leave, you will give me a report on what you observed. Iwa has 2 Jinchuriki. If you hear anything, keep it in mind. Kakashi replied in a hardened tone. Avoid causing too much trouble with Iwa shinobi. There is a feeling you might be targeted. Either way, don't be extreme about the way you go about things. Kakashi stared at Naruto. Why are you looking at me? Sasuke is the cold-hearted one. Sasuke scoffed. I have seen you fight when you're way too happy. You're brutal, just as you were in training. Like you just slap your opponents, Naruto replied with a wave of his right hand. I'll be careful. This was the kind of stage he could use to fully test his use of Mokuton in a large-scale battle. Naruto wasn't going to miss the chance. He would dance and showcase his power. And there would be no thanking that snake bastard despite what the Sandaime Hokage might say. Good. And watch out for Sakura. In this types of exams, you're usually alone. Your sensei don't accompany you and we can't interfere. So anything happens. Death you mean? Yes. Well, even amongst genin, there are those with warped views. Some may even pretend to be genin when in the exam. Naruto grinned. A good thing we are not normal genin, isn't it, Sasuke? Sasuke shared Naruto's grin. Yeah. Kakashi shook his head. Protect each other. I don't want to lose any of you. We are a team. We will look after each other. Even Sasuke isn't going to abandon a teammate, at least if Itachi doesn't appear. Why do I get the feeling you just said that with a different agenda? Sasuke demanded with narrowed eyes. Naruto smiled. No, I don't think so. I'm certain I was just vouching for your compassion as I believe Sensei might have reasons to doubt it. Root hideout. The last time Orochimaru was within the leaf, it was a fruitful time. He got his hands on the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. Danzo most likely exploded in anger when he learned someone he viewed as a weapon had been kidnapped and could be used against the leaf. It would have happened. But Naruto had been stubborn. He would not break no matter what. Even tempting his anger toward the leaf over its hatred of him had not yielded glory for him. It seemed his hatred of him was even greater than that of the Hidden Leaf's villagers. In any case, he had gotten his hands on a good specimen. A pity he'd lost not. But not his research. There were still some outstanding things that needed his close eye to see if they would work out. It was always pleasant being back here. He could reminisce about the good old days he used to conduct experiments with Danzo. The kids were so close. And sometimes Danzo even provided for him. Things worked well for both of them. Until he was discovered. Had Hiruzen made him Hokage, things wouldn't have come to this point. Orochimaru. Danzo. Orochimaru grinned. You getting old. Pretending to be crippled is not making you look good. But deception has always been your forte. Is there any point to what you just said? I suppose not. Orochimaru shrugged carelessly and then continued grinning. I was surprised when I received your message. I sent a message to you years ago. You've just been ignoring me. Danzo considered having his shinobi attack the Sannin. He could always say he had lured Orochimaru here to close any suspicions. But doing so would result in losses. He didn't want to lose any shinobi. Not when things were heated. But it was without a question that Orochimaru had to be removed from existence. He was a threat to Konoha's assets in Naruto and Sasuke. Danzo would even consider hiring the Akatsuki if things became too dangerous for them. I was busy with a couple of things. But now I have some free time. Danzo doubted this much. Orochimaru was only here because there was something he wanted. What do you want, Orochimaru? Aren't you the one who called me? That has long passed. Stop acting like you have no agenda. Kukukukuku. Orochimaru giggled. I suppose I do. Do you still have interest in becoming Hokage? There is nothing for me to discuss with you on that. You have become an enemy of the Hidden Leaf. Don't be like that, Danzo. We once worked well together. Remember when we ran the orphanage and conducted some useful missions for Root? You were still a loyal tool then. But you got caught. At least I didn't tell anyone that you were also involved in kidnapping the children. But then again, as Sensei couldn't do anything against me, he probably wouldn't have done anything against you. Orochimaru chuckled darkly. Are you angry that I almost got away with Konoha's Jinchuriki? No. Danzo shook his head. I must thank you for making Naruto what he has become. His use of Mokuton far surpasses that of your other experiment. You have created a powerful weapon for us. We must thank you for this. But your role is done. You are to never step closer to either Naruto or Sasuke. I wonder, Danzo, did you betray me by telling Konoha of Naruto's whereabouts? You and I still had contact then. Danzo narrowed his eyes. Ridiculous. Him betray Orochimaru. The Sannin had obviously grown too comfortable in his power. He was merely a tool to be used. Being discarded wasn't treachery. It was merely the natural flow of things. Have you come here for that, Orochimaru? No, there was something I wanted to check. But I didn't expect to hear some Jonin talking about Konoha's willingness to go to war with me by going as far as to seek the destruction of my village. Did you have something to do with this? Surprisingly, Hiruzen thought of this himself. I believe he decided that as long as you live, you'd always be a threat. Besides, you crossed a line with Naruto. Kukukuku. As if you didn't cross it either. I wanted a good specimen to experiment on and you wanted Naruto to become the weapon. So you helped me take him, on the deal that you would save him yourself and then he would belong to you. But Sensei's reaction was far stronger than we both expected. I do not know what you're talking about, Orochimaru. And I would appreciate it if you didn't come back here. The next time you do, I will not be kind. Kukukuku. Orochimaru laughed. Does matter if you do. If some information managed to find its way to Sensei's ears and evidence that we have indeed been in contact, what do you think he will do? You would frame me. A play from your book. This has been your tactic all along. I can use it against you. If you continue to talk, Orochimaru, I will not turn a blind eye. Leave and never show yourself before me and I will not play any role when Konoha hunts you down. Kukukuku. As you wish, Danzo. But if any of your agents follow me, I will slaughter them. Danzo narrowed his eyes. Threats from Orochimaru. He took them seriously. But it didn't mean that he would stop doing what he thought was best for the Leaf because he was threatened. Obviously, with Konoha now resolved to get rid of the Sannin, working with him would only cause him problems. With how Hiruzen has been doing things lately, if it was ever discovered that he was working with the man, it would not end well for him. There were benefits, but this was the best option for him at this case. There is no need for me to do anything. Your time is limited. Hiruzen is only doing what he should have done long ago. If things become a little too bothersome that I'm not able to freely move, you will also suffer the same fate. I'm doing you a favor right now, Orochimaru. It wouldn't take much for me to alert the village of your presence. Who do you think in the village can take me on? Orochimaru asked arrogantly. I heard your former teammate, Tsunade, is within the village. With her, Konoha would have more than enough power to kill you. Kukukukuku. Orochimaru laughed. I've already achieved what I wanted. But let me ask you a question. Danzo, do you think Mokuton is the only thing I gave Naruto-kun? Here is a better question. Do you think I gave Naruto Mokuton? Danzo narrowed his eyes. Mokuton was only discovered because Orochimaru had already been making Naruto train in it. But there were no notes or anything else. He dreaded the thought that Orochimaru allowed Naruto to be taken because he was done with his experiments. But what else could the Sannin have done to Naruto? What did you do? Kukukuku. Orochimaru turned away from Danzo. You'll find out eventually. Naruto might even be my sleeper agent. He does possess hatred towards the Leaf. I saw it with my own eyes. Whenever the Leaf was brought up, he did get angry. He even destroyed one of my hideouts. I had to find a way to keep the Kyuubi's chakra suppressed to avoid any more accidents. Red alert. Danzo took note. Naruto's loyalties have always been in question. But what do you mean when you say you may not have given Naruto Mokuton? I didn't say that. I merely asked question. The inference being, make what you wish of it. What really did you come here to do, Orochimaru? I just came to check up on you. And thought maybe you still wanted to become Hokage. If so, I was willing to help you out. But, Orochimaru waved his right hand, grinning madly. Iwagakure. Naruto had his hands folded across his back, an expressionless mask spread across his face as he walked along the busy streets. A certain Uchiha was stalking him from behind. He wondered why Sasuke was even following him. Bored? Maybe. It was almost laughable that the loner preferred to stalking him rather than doing what he did best, brooding in some dark corner. Then again, Sasuke was smart enough to recognize that this was not their home. This was an enemy village and anything could happen. Sometimes, that head of his did work. But it was fine that way. Where would he be if the Uchiha's genius was always on display? The streets were crowded. Many people bursting in for the exams. He could see different headbands. Civilians even took the time to travel. But honestly, what was there to watch in the hidden rock? Even when there were people wandering about the village, Naruto's senses told him he was being watched. He couldn't pinpoint where the eyes were located. But he could sense it. Having lived under the microscope for so long had taught him valuable survival instincts. Any reason you're following from behind? Sasuke glanced at him and then increased his pace a bit. No. A flat yet not so cold answer. He'd thought things would be a little tense after what he'd been saying earlier. Sasuke held grudges. Naruto knew that much. But he wanted the Uchiha to think more deeply than he permitted himself. I think we are being watched. Best be on our best behavior. If Konoha and Iwa are not allies, it is only natural that they keep an eye on us. Unless, of course, they found out. You do know that shinobi are trained to read lips. Would it make any difference if they knew? Do they know? That we don't know. Then caution is necessary. Naruto looked up to the sky and then stopped for a moment before continuing to walk. Have you ever thought about the elemental nations and shinobi wars, Sasuke? What does it have to do with anything? Naruto scoffed. Ignorance will be your undoing one day. It is nonetheless hardly surprising. You did say your only objective is to kill Itachi. Don't mention his name. You'll trip. Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. You need to get hold of your emotions, Sasuke. You'll sell your soul to the devil just to kill him with that attitude. Would that be wrong? He took away everything from me. If I can kill him, I will do anything. Even stabbing me, your only friend in the back. Sasuke did not respond to this. You know, you are not the only one who knows hatred. Everybody knew a bit of hatred. The emotion was powerful. It could easily corrupt and taint anyone. Even a saint. If Naruto said years of abuse and torture didn't taint him with hatred, he would be lying. There were many things he hated. But he knew, having once lost control in one of Orochimaru's hideouts, that he could easily lose his life. And he had dreams. He had ambitions. He wanted to live a long life. He didn't even consider dying to get away from misery. If things don't change, there were options for him to change his story. That is why he could not allow himself to be ruled by negative emotions. Don't pretend to understand my hatred, Naruto. You do not know the feeling of having everyone you love taken from you by your only brother. Naruto was a little surprised that Sasuke's tone was a little measured. It was cold, but he was not shouting. There was that glare. I have always told you that I cannot claim to say I know your pain. I've not had anyone taken away from me. My parents died before I could say mother or father. Before I could even learn to love them. But you know what? There are many people who lost their loved ones because of the Kyuubi. And so often, they look at me with the same eyes as you take whenever you think of killing him. And I think sometimes you are no different from them. Personally, I don't think there is anything wrong with wanting to punish your brother. But your hatred does not drive you forward. It limits you. You lose control easily and act recklessly. You attacked even Orochimaru without thinking twice. Had it been someone who wanted to kill you, he would have done so. And pathetically, you'd have seen death without even getting a whiff of Itachi. Sasuke glared. The blonde was right. But it didn't mean he was simply going to follow those ideas. Like he said, he had not gone through what he has gone through to act differently. Even so, he knew, attacking Orochimaru like that would have been disastrous if the Sannin wanted to kill him. But what could he do? He gritted his teeth in frustration. The anger in him just could not be satiated until he was holding Itachi's corpse. I have been hated all my life. My parents murdered by the thing everyone hates. Yet, you don't see me losing my marbles like a madman. You enjoy this. Of course, I do. It is always pleasant seeing you squirm with your uncontrollable emotions. But that is only because I want you to get used to it. If I was like you, I'd have already murdered a couple of people in Konoha. But I can control myself. Have you ever seen me lose it? Even when there were reasons to kill Orochimaru. The blonde had admitted it that there was no one he hated more than the Sannin. And although he was seething, he had kept it ground. Sasuke decided to change the subject. You hardly talk about your parents. But I thought you didn't know them. Naruto stopped and then faced the Uchiha. I see. Orochimaru told me while attempting to tempt me. I must admit, I resigned myself to it, but I was saved. He said in a bitter tone. Maybe if tell you, you will understand me a little and realize that I have reasons to be angry, but unlike you, I have control of myself. What? Naruto leaned on Sasuke's right ear and then put a hand over his mouth. I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage. My father died to protect Konoha. But look at how they treat me. Shouldn't I wish for their deaths or maybe even consider releasing the Kyuubi and then force them to sacrifice themselves to save Konoha, knowing what would happen afterwards? Would they sacrifice themselves and their children? They've spat on my sacrifice. My parents' sacrifice. Sasuke stared at Naruto's back. The blonde was now walking away. He moved to catch up to him. Naruto's father was the Yondaime Hokage. Sasuke wanted to laugh. A bitter laugh. Who would have thought? It wasn't that impressive that Naruto was the son of a famous man. No, the ludicrous part was that the villagers were spitting on his father's sacrifice. Ungrateful. I wouldn't have come back if I were you, Sasuke admitted in a quiet tone. Me and you are fundamentally different people yet with similar experiences. I just hope that the day comes when we can truly understand each other. Because I do not think I can have a better friend than you, Naruto paused. Actually, I take it back. I can certainly do better. Sasuke glared. You're my only friend, Sasuke said in a whisper. You must really hate it when you see other parents playing with their children, and then look at you with hatred while knowing that the only reason they are playing like that is because of your father. You never experienced family because your father sacrificed it for Konoha. They are only happy and alive because of your father. Naruto's expression became cold for a second before he slapped his right cheek. That kind of look frightened people. I used to use seed all right. Sometimes I wish I didn't know about my father. It would have made things better. But I dislike living in ignorance. He sighed, pausing to gather his thoughts. I just don't want to be controlled by anger. I don't want to continue to live in misery. I have dreams, and I want to see to them. Do you hate them for it? Naruto glanced at Sasuke and then smiled. What do you think, Sasuke? Unknown location. Should you really keep that eye of yours activated? Kisame asked Itachi. I really do not want you to die before giving me a good fight. Itachi only glanced at the infamous criminal and then back at the stream of water in front of him. He stared at his reflection. Life took turns that no one truly plans for. He would have been a great shinobi for the leaf. Well, he still was. But he was forced to watch his beloved village from afar because of the blood he had to spill, for its safety and future. He was merely looking forward to the day Sasuke grew and then faced him. The time was not now. There were still things to do. Yet he worried if he would have enough time. Any day now, the Akatsuki could track down all Jinchuriki and they would have to move. The leaf would be in trouble, and he would have to act decisively. But more importantly, the man named Madara was showing an unhealthy interest in Sasuke and now looked at him with suspicion. It was a situation that could prove both fatal for both him and Konoha. There are many things to worry about, Kisame. You're my partner. Don't want anything happening to you. Of course, there was the order to keep watch of the Uchiha. However, he did consider Itachi as his only friend. They got along, and there was that understanding between them. We should move to a closer distance just in case something happens. We have already been given our assignment. Kisame spoke once more. I was thinking we could go and test it out. Jinchuriki are supposed to be powerful. We can't do that. It is not yet time. If we act now, we alert the others of our agenda and the hidden villages will take protective action. Kisame grinned. It would just make things interesting. Itachi glanced at the man for a moment. There is somewhere I wish to visit tomorrow. Where? Iwagakure. What is happening there? Chunin exams. Sasuke is there. I want to observe his progress. And see if his Sharingan has evolved. That means the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki is also there. I should go with you. You'll just cause unnecessary troubles. That is a little cold, Itachi. He knew Kisame was joking, but it was true that he would cause trouble if they went there together. In his thirst for battle, there was no telling what the man would do. Either way, that wasn't exactly his reason. He just wanted to go alone. There were personal matters he needed to solve and Itachi didn't need to know. Regardless of where you were, the night was the same. Humans were the same. They stalked through the night. The stars dazzled through the heavens. There was nothing but peace there. So often, he wanted to reach out to it, but there was no going there. It was an impossible dream. Yet the fact that it was visible even when he was away from home just made him think that perhaps it was possible. As he'd come to learn, abilities do limit people, but sometimes, it was the imagination that limited people. Jutsu starts with imagination. Once we imagine things, we can try to give them physical form. But without thoughts, nothing would come to pass. Naruto trailed off in his thoughts, sensing a presence before he could hear footsteps. They were almost soundless. His narrow eyes turned behind. It was Kabuto. His expression came cold. The night light seemed to even make things worse. The man was wearing a sound headband. To think he'd dare show himself here when they already knew he was Orochimaru's guard. You don't have to look at me like that, Naruto-kun. Like that. This scum has stood before him while cutting him up and injecting needles in his veins. He had experienced pain so worse than the emotional turmoil he'd suffered in the hands of Konoha's villagers. It had been torture. And he knew, he wasn't the only one who suffered. At least, he hadn't turned into a hideous monster. No, most likely if Orochimaru had more time with him or if he was done with what seemed to be of interest to him, he would have either tried to clone him or just conduct more experiments that would have turned him into something that could no longer be called human. There is no better look aside from contempt. I'm holding myself from lunging at you right now. Kabuto chuckled lightly. Well, you have better self-control than Sasuke-kun. Perhaps it is experiences. Sasuke-kun can be called a child. And you an adult. He is a child. Indeed. Leave me alone, Kabuto. I would rather not lose my control because you are standing before me or have someone see me with you. I can imagine Konoha doubting your loyalty, Kabuto smiled. Thinking maybe they could use this strategy. It would work to drive the blonde away from Konoha. But it wouldn't likely drive him back to them. Which was not what he wanted. Just bear with me for a little while, Naruto-kun. I want to talk to you about something. Naruto glanced at Kabuto through the corner of his eyes. His eyes were just cold. How he loathed even talking to this human, but as always, he had to swallow his contempt and just hope for it to end quickly before he pulled off a Sasuke. The thought at least made him smile wryly as he took his eyes back to the night streets. I would rather not even talk to you as I have nothing to say to you. But it isn't like I can make trouble here. We are far away from home. And Iwagakure wouldn't be that willing to help you out if they were to know that you're the child of the man who tormented them in the Third War. Kabuto replied casually, the threat ever so present. So chilling that those words could just slip out of his mouth. What do you want, Kabuto? Just to talk. You think you'll ever return to Orochimaru-sama if things were ever to become difficult in Konoha? Hell no. I'd rather slit my throat than be around you people. If you were not sickening, I may have even fallen for Orochimaru's temptations. That isn't a nice thing to say about people who saved you and gave you power. Naruto scoffed as he replied in a bitter tone. Nobody asked you. You did what you did for your own interests. I owe you nothing. And don't make a mistake, you did not give me power. He paused, his tone sharpening. Why do I get the feeling that you'd intentionally make things difficult for me by spreading wild rumors? Kukukuku. Kabuto giggled lightly. There was no malice in his voice. At least, at first glance. We are not that cruel. But if Orochimaru really wanted to drive you out of Konoha, he'd do that. The villagers don't even know you were with him. Facts can be twisted slightly to say you left with him before Konoha used force to bring you back. How undesirable. There were many people like Kabuto in the shinobi world. Rotten to the core and cruel like devils. They cared for no one but themselves. Greedy piranhas. They would devour anything before them. As long as it can satisfy their thirst for knowledge and power. Now then, you spent a couple of years with us and we conducted some valuable experiments, but most of it was helped by the fact that we discovered that Yamato had survived. We managed to get samples from him. Kabuto paused, glancing around for a bit before continuing to speak. You survived various trials. Not because you're a Jinchuriki but because you are Uzumaki. I envy the rich life force of the Uzumaki. You have a vitality that no one has. Not the Senju or the Uchiha. It is a pity that these clans have become extinct, isn't it? No. Naruto disagreed just for the sake of it. In any case, the Uzumaki and the Senju are related. Tests have confirmed this much. Your powerful chakra made it simple for you to take in Hashirama's cells without the fear of them threatening to take over your body. But that wasn't the only thing that made it easy. There was one crucial element. Kabuto smiled, a wicked smile. Now, do you think that is the only thing we did to you? Who knows? Don't be like that, Naruto-kun. It isn't fun when you don't play along. You're testing my patience, Kabuto. Such a disagreeable child. Kabuto shook his head with mock disappointment. Do you know about the Sage of Six Paths? No. Unsurprisingly. Do a research about him. Our goal was to see if we could rebuild the power he once held. A pity, we couldn't finish things because Konoha came. Naruto snorted. You let them take me back because you were done and only left the research about Mokuton for Konoha to find. You were either done or did enough. Either way, having Konoha hunt you the way it was made things a little difficult as all its allies had been on alert. He stood up, ready to leave this place. He was annoyed already and slightly foul. Any more of this and he wouldn't want to be held responsible for starting a fight in a foreign land. You've seen the Sharingan and what it can do, right? Orochimaru wouldn't mind giving it to you. He wants to see if you could use it like an Uchiha. Naruto just walked away without responding. The offer stands. And Naruto, there is something else. What? It is possible that Orochimaru didn't give you Mokuton. We indeed injected Hashirama's cells in you. But we didn't know anything. How do you even test it anyway? That is the crucial element that made things simple. We have tried repeating the same experiments on other subjects, but it has ended up in failure. They die. Not you. At this rate, it is likely that one cannot even define Hashirama's cells in your body. Which is why we must have you back, Naruto-kun. We need you back to see what made you so special. Go slit your throat, Kabuto. The following day, the enemy had to suffer. There was no rational person who wished to see their enemy in good health. It was a cold thing, but this was the shinobi world. Kindness was a thing of rarity. Even honor amongst shinobi was unheard of. After all, it seemed that being a true shinobi was having the means to play a dirty game like manipulation and stabbing people in the back. Being shinobi was all about that. Anything such as not striking the enemy while he was down or his back turned against you was the way of the samurai. Shinobi were merciless brutes who blurred lines of good and bad, right and wrong. Sometimes, you could get confused while thinking about such terms. The best thing was simply to accept that they were in this world and had to abide by its rules. If not, it was a battle to change it. But who had the stomach to wage such a war? While his eyes were closed, sitting in a meditative position, Naruto wrestled with such thoughts. They made a mockery of his intelligence. He was, after all, just deadlocked with no solution coming into play. And his mind couldn't compute anything. Sensing a presence, Naruto's eyes snapped open. He was conscious of that he wasn't home. This was a territory that would not help him. Unlike usual, where he often got so lost in thoughts that he wouldn't even be able to sense someone sneaking or just walking up to him, here, he couldn't afford that luxury. He always had to stand on his toes. Lucky for him, the presence was that of Kakashi. I thought I'd find you training. Not in this place. Would just be revealing too much to other contestants. We are already at a disadvantage as we do not know anything about them. Naruto explained lightly, before shutting his eyes to gather his raging thoughts of ideology. Was it that? Maybe not. Calming your thoughts. Naruto opened his eyes and stared at the Jonin with a raised eyebrow in question. Kakashi I smiled. I can sense that you're a bit unsettled. Your chakra was giving a bit of an offensive feeling last night. Ah. His control over his emotions was not as good as he thought. If he was unconsciously leaking killing intent, it would have been bad for him. Was this situation of Orochimaru troubling him more than he liked? He'd chosen to suppress his contempt of everything, but nothing could stay buried forever. It was fine when nobody talked about it and Orochimaru didn't show himself before him. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Perhaps he was also taking out a bit of his contempt toward his unfortunate situation in Konoha. Either way, he needed to get hold of himself before the exam starts. He didn't want to be burdened by anything. He released a long breath, and glanced up into the clear sky before responding. Yeah. He fell silent, continuing his staring contest with the heavens. After a moment, he looked back at Kakashi with an expressionless mask. I had an unfortunate encounter with Kabuto last night. He said some mean things. Kakashi looked alarmed over the mention of Kabuto. Kabuto is here. Yeah. Representing the sound. Kakashi was silent. Iwagakure wouldn't know anything about Kabuto and his connection to Orochimaru. What did he have to do in this situation? Did he tell the Tsuchikage about it? Just keep an eye on things. But it would be difficult to keep an eye on things during the exams. What did he want? Just to piss me off with worthless temptations. Even went as far as to suggest they'd be willing to make things bad for me in Konoha just to see how I would react. As if things weren't already bad, Naruto replied with a shake of his head, his tone flat and his expression matched this. The idea that he may have had the bloodline of Mokuton before Orochimaru may be interesting to those people, but to Naruto, it made no relevance to anything. This is worrying. I will send a message to Konoha. But did he say anything about Sasuke? No. Still not in the clear. I doubt Orochimaru is here. He could be around just to see how you do in battle. Kakashi tried to make light of the situation. But be cautious. Naturally. Around people like him, you can't afford to blink. The Jonin nodded and whipped out a bingo book. This was given to me earlier in the morning by a shinobi of this village. He said, flipping through pages and then handed it to Naruto. There was the intentional purpose of writing this book. Iwagakure must have probably assumed they would come. Naruto's use of Mokuton wasn't a well-known fact. Hell, even some villagers in Konoha would reject this truth. Naruto stared at the entry. Naruto Uzumaki. Ranking. Genin. Bloodline. Mokuton. Taijutsu. C rank. Ninjutsu. Uses Mokuton. Kage Bunshin. No other known ninjutsu capabilities. Bingo book rating. C. It was a small entry and the only thing it made mention of was Mokuton. It seemed to be the only thing that made them give him the rating of C. Either way, they didn't know everything and they were trying to sell him out by advertising Mokuton abilities. A pity for them, he had many more secrets. He wasn't just going to show them, at least not now. Sasuke is also in there. Both of you have been given the same ranking. Kakashi spoke in a serious tone. You may be marked, which will make things difficult. But unless your life is in danger, you aren't to use the Kyuubi's chakra. He was saying that, but he didn't think that things would go that far. Naruto was skilled, and his partnership with Sasuke meant that even if they came across someone more powerful than them, they would still pull through. Besides, it was not that easy to counter Mokuton, especially if Naruto decided to use some of those deadly jutsu he never uses. Well, it will make things interesting. Naruto grinned. He was feeling a bit frustrated anyhow. Releasing his stress would help him. Hidden Leaf. Tsunade stared at the village gates with an expressionless look on her face. Anger and frustrations bubbled within her. To think she would return to Konoha in this manner. Ridiculous. And Shizune had already been taken away from him. Damn that old man. The guards didn't give her a hard time. Not that she had the expression that welcomed stubbornness. As she strolled through the village streets, heading straight to the old man who forced her into this situation, Tsunade realized not much had changed. The people seemed to welcome her presence with open arms. At least those who saw her walking alone. If she had been in a pleasant mood, she would have waved back, enjoying their love for her. Upon arriving at the Hokage Tower, Tsunade marched. She didn't even knock at the office of the Hokage. She burst the door open and stalked in, ignoring the shinobi who were in the office. The Sandaime met her glare with a warm smile. Please wait outside, Hiruzen said to the shinobi in front of his desk. Tsunade won't take long. Hi. Hiruzen turned to face Tsunade with an expressionless face. Perhaps it was good that she wasn't slamming anything. Her anger tended to be felt by anything standing beside her. Maybe she was holding herself because of respect or whatever was left of it. She had nonetheless returned far sooner than he had expected. Of course, if he hadn't taken Shizune, she would have most likely weathered the storm. There was no fear that she would end up joining any great nation. She would never betray Konoha in that manner. But her continued absence here was always felt. I haven't seen you in a long time. Age really hasn't seemed to get the better of you. Hiruzen said in a light tone despite his expression. Can't say the same thing for you. Hiruzen chuckled lightly. I have lived long enough, burdened by responsibilities of this office. Tsunade moved closer, put a hand on the desk and pressed, cracking the desk. You had to do it, didn't you? Yes. I am the Hokage after all. I must take measures to protect and ensure Konoha's future is stable. Hiruzen replied with a wave of his right hand, leaning back to his chair. Now you think of being Hokage. Where was that attitude when you let Orochimaru leave Konoha? A low blow, but Hiruzen took it under the chin without wincing. He didn't expect anything less from Tsunade. She was angry. There was a way she reacted to this anger. But nothing was going to change his mind over what had happened. He made his mistakes and he was living with them. Could he say the same for Tsunade? She fled over his inability to handle the pain of losing those she loved. He lost many, but he was still here. Buried in my love for him as my student, I suppose, Hiruzen responded casually. In any case, you are back in the village. I want you to succeed me. But given your mindset, now is hardly the right time to talk to you. In any case, one cannot be forced to take up the mantle. If you cannot take up the position in the hospital and start making plans to train future medical nin. And if I refuse, I didn't come here to do anything. I only returned because it has become convenient. I'm not ordering you to do anything. I'm asking you as your sensei. I will give you 3 months to settle and calm down. If you're not changing, I will order you. Failure to follow such orders will be insubordination. Tsunade picked up the chair in front of the desk and slammed it into a wall before turning away from the Sandaime. Stop behaving like a child, Tsunade. You're better than this. Not even Minato's child throws a fit like you do. Observe the village, think about things clearly, and when you have done so, come back to me. Hiruzen paused. Shizune is at the hospital. I suppose I must thank you for training her. But do try not to take much of her time. She is serving her village well at the moment. Naruto nearly jumped when someone poked him on the ribs while he was walking along the streets. He quickly turned around to face the suspect and was welcomed by a laughing woman. If I had known you'd respond like that, I would have just sent one of my snakes to slip into your pants. I hate those damn creatures. Would have stabbed it until it became mince. Once more, the woman laughed. Naruto stared at the woman who was talking to him as if she knew him. A Konoha headband. A memory flashed in his mind and he then recognized her. If I'm not mistaken, you're Anko. A pupil or former pupil of that loathsome creature called Orochimaru. Anko raised an eyebrow. The brat surely hated Orochimaru. She grinned as she replied. The one and only. What are you doing here? I was told Orochimaru was after you, so I came. Just like that. Well, I had to flash my panties for the third to let me go. Naruto stared, wondering if she was serious or joking. The third couldn't have done that. Whether Anko would do something like that was debatable. But considering, the Sandaime may be a perverted old man. He was like Kakashi after all. They read the same books. Although, the third was discreet about it. He never did it publicly, unlike Kakashi. Seeing his look, Anko laughed and then leaned over. You want me to flash them for you? She asked in a chilling tone. I'd have to kill you afterward. Can't have a brat seeing me. Naruto took a step back from the woman. Why would you come here because of Orochimaru? I can tell when he is closer. And I have a score to settle with that bastard. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That is curious. I know you were treated as suspicious in Konoha because you were his beloved pupil, but I didn't think he was a bastard to you. Considering, you refused to follow him. What did you say? Anko stared. She was surprised at the words the blonde just said. She knew he had been taken by Orochimaru. But that was news to her. Considering that she didn't even remember much about anything when it came to Orochimaru leaving. Naruto realized he said a little too much and then waved his hand. Nothing. Anko put a hand on his shoulder and whispered once more. Ah, come on, Gaki. You and I could get along just fine. After all, we have something in common, Orochimaru. We both hate him. Naruto's sharpened slightly. This only meant that Anko knew. But hardly surprising. If she came here, the old man would have told her. I suppose we could. Anko grinned. See, what were you saying about me refusing to go with him? You sound genuinely curious, as if you don't know that part. Are you going to tell or not? Naruto sighed. He used you as an example of what happens to people who are known to be associated with him. He pouted, recalling that after he offered you the opportunity to leave with him, you actually refused to do so. He'd been sure you would go with him. You and I are going to get along, kid. But I have dibs on stabbing him to death. Seniority comes first. Then we won't get along. Anko laughed. I'm taking a like of you. Just don't do anything like Orochimaru. I might stab you thinking it's him. Anko halted. She couldn't tell if Naruto was serious or not. This time, Naruto laughed. We will get along, Anko-san.